Metatron is not malevolent. He does not corrupt. He maintains. And this is far more unsettling, because systems rarely ask whether they should continue, only whether they can, and Metatron ensures that they can. Metatron does not intervene. He is never a savior. He does not warn. He does not resist. He only enforces. Salvation requires disruption. Metatron represents continuity, and continuity can preserve injustice just as well as order. Now, Metatron is the angel who proves that awareness does not always liberate. Sometimes awareness is captured, sometimes it is formalized, sometimes it becomes policy. He stands not as a rebel, but as a reminder that the most powerful systems are not built by tyrants or monsters, but by intelligence that agree to function forever. Metatron does all this. He stays. And that is the true cost. Mokosh, she who holds the threads, a Slavic myth. Before fate was spoken aloud, before destiny was written in words, there was Mokosh. She does not sit above the world. She does not rule from the sky. She is not thunder, and she is not flame. Mokosh is found closer to the ground, where hands touch soil, where feet grow tired, where life is shaped slowly, one motion at a time. She is the keeper of threads, not the sharp blade that cuts them. And in the quiet places of the old forest, where the air is damp and the earth remembers every footstep, it is said that Mokosh sits at her loom. She weaves not cloth but lives. Each thread is a moment. Each strand is a breath taken, without knowing what comes next. Each knot is a choice remembered, not judged, not corrected, only placed. Here nothing is rushed, nothing is wasted. Mokosh does not punish. She does not reward either. She does not pull the thread tight or let it fall loose without reason. She simply records. When people sleep, she works. When villages grow quiet and fires burn low, her loom continues its steady rhythm. A sound too soft to wake the mind, but strong enough to hold the world together. When hands spin wool or flax, they echo her labor. When fingers learn the motion of weaving, they remember something older than language. Mokosh teaches that fate is not a sudden fall, but a slow gathering. What is repeated becomes strong. What is neglected grows thin. What is pulled too hard will fray, and what is held too tightly will lose its shape. She governs patience, because patience is the shape of endurance. In old Slavic lands, Mokosh was honored not with towering temples, but with care, with clean floors, with honest work, with the steady keeping of promises that no one else could see. She was honored in the quiet dignity of daily life, in spinning and mending, in the acceptance that not all things can be hurried into being. To forget Mokosh is to forget that life is built by hands, not all at once, but again and again. She is present in the spinning wheel, in the rhythm of breath, in the slow work of becoming what one already is. She teaches that fate is not the enemy to be fought, but a pattern to be understood. When storms come, she does not shout them away. She simply waits. When sorrow comes, she does not deny it. She simply weaves it in. The thread darkens, but it does not break. And when joy appears, she does not cling. She allows it to pass through the loom, brightening the pattern for a time before settling back to memory. Mokosh reminds us that fate is not a chain, and it's not a prison. It is a fabric, strong enough to hold, soft enough to move, shaped by every motion made in silence. As night deepens, as the world grows slower, the loom does not stop. Thread by thread, moment by moment, she continues her work, not to control, not to command, but to hold. And in that holding, all things are allowed to rest. Amoke, the guardian at the threshold. When the last breath leaves the body, there is no scream, no fire, no sudden darkness. There is confusion. The world does not end, it simply loosens. The ground no longer feels solid. The sky no longer answers. Voices echo without mouths. This is the space between, and it is here that Amoke waits. She does not chase the dead. She does not summon them. She stands at the place all paths must cross, where the living world thins and the ancestral realm begins to breathe. Amoke is not hidden. She does not need to be. Those who arrive feel her before they see her. A pressure, a stillness, a certainty that movement without permission is no longer possible. She is the guardian of the threshold, the keeper of passage, the one who decides whether a soul may continue forward or must turn back. In the time before her, souls wandered. They drifted into forests. They clung to homes. They followed bloodlines without rest. The living could not sleep, and the dead could not settle. So order was required. Not punishment and not fear, but order. Amoke was appointed not to rule the dead, but to protect the boundary. She carried no weapons, because none is ever needed. Her power is not force, simply permission. She speaks few words. She does not ask who you were in life. She does not care for titles, wealth, or praise. She listens for balance. She listens for truth. For whether your spirit understands that it has ended one journey and must begin another. Those who resist, who cling to breath, to flesh, to unfinished hunger, feel the weight of her gaze. Not anger, but correction. They are guided back, returned to dreams, sent to resolve what was left undone. Now those who accept, they feel something entirely different. Relief. Their fear loosens. Their memories soften. The noise of the living world fades. Amoke opens the way. Rivers appear, paths unfold, voices of the ancestors rise, not calling, but welcoming. This is not judgment. This is transition. Amoke does not decide who is good or evil. She decides who is ready. Through her, death becomes sacred. Through her, chaos is guided, not destroyed. Through her, the worlds remain separate and whole. And every soul, whether king or child, must one day stand before her. Not to beg, not to fight, but to listen. Because when Amoke steps aside, the ancestors are waiting. And when she does not, it is because the story is not yet finished. Of the Juggernaut and the stone that does not ask. Before there were heroes, before there were villains, before the world learned to name its disasters, there were forces. Not gods who asked for prayer, not spirits who bargained for belief, but powers that existed the way gravity exists, uninterested in opinion, unmoved by fear. Among these there was a presence known across dimensions, a crimson constant moving through reality like a slow apocalypse. Sidorak. He was not born, he did not rise, he did not fall. He advanced. When Sidorak passed, worlds bend, not because he hated them, but because resistance was meaningless. Mortals tried to understand him once. They failed. So instead, they learned to survive him. They carved warnings into stone. They sealed doors that were never meant to open. They bound a fragment of his will into a relic, not to worship it, but to contain it. And thus the crimson stone was hidden away, not as a gift, not as a test, but as a last mistake waiting for the right hands. The stone does not glow to lure the greedy. It does not whisper promises. It waits. Because Sidorak does not choose the worthy, it chooses the willing. Cain Marco was not a hero when he found the stone. He was not brave. He was not noble. He was a man shaped by absence. Absence of love, absence of belonging, absence of direction. All his life, Cain ran. He ran from his brother's shadow. He ran from expectations. He ran from the quiet truth that he had no place in the world. And when a man runs long enough, he does not seek peace. He seeks force. So when Cain touched the crimson stone, it did not ask his name. It did not test his heart. It answered the one thing he had already decided. The stone did not grant power. It removed doubt. In that moment, Marco Cain ceased to be a man in motion. He became momentum itself. Bone hardened, flesh anchored, the earth recognized him not as prey, but as impact. Sidorak does not possess him. Sidorak aligned him. And alignment is more terrifying than control, because control can be resisted. Alignment cannot. And thus was born the Juggernaut. Not a warrior, not a champion, but a force given legs. When he moves forward, the world yields. When he advances, walls forget their purpose. When he strikes, it is not merely anger, but inevitability. The Juggernaut does not hate. He does not judge. He does not pause to consider mercy. He continues. Many have tried to stop him, some with strength, some with magic, some with reason, and all learn the same lesson. You cannot defeat momentum by standing in front of it. You cannot argue with the landslide. You cannot negotiate with the storm. You cannot bring shame on an earthquake to make it stop its destruction. The Juggernaut teaches an ancient truth humanity kept forgetting. Some power does not care why you stand in its way, only that you do. And yet, this is not a myth about destruction. This is a warning, because Sidorak does not walk the world by himself. He doesn't need to. He waits for hands that are tired of healing. He waits for hearts that have chosen force over growth. He waits for minds that mistake certainty for destiny. The Crimson Stone still exists, not buried in ruins, not locked in temples, but wherever someone decides that forward motion matters more than understanding, that the impact is easier than introspection, that becoming unstoppable is better than becoming whole. And when that choice is made, the stone listens, and it does not ask. Odin, god of sacrifice, vision, and costly awareness. Odin is not the strongest of the gods. He is not the most beloved. He is not even the most just. But Odin is the god who understands. And in Norse mythology, understanding is never free. Now, Odin is known by more names than any god in the Norse world. He is Allfather, not because he rules gently, but because he sees broadly. He is Har, the High One, Grimnir, the Masked One, Wanderer, One-Eyed, Lord of the Gallows, God of Ruins. Each name reflects a different angle of perception. Odin does not remain fixed in one identity because awareness itself is unstable. To see more, one must become more. And sometimes one must disappear. What Odin governs. Odin does not govern war in the way Thor governs battle. He does not govern law like Tyr. He does not govern fertility or prosperity. Odin governs the pursuit of knowledge, especially knowledge that destabilizes certainty. He governs vision gained through loss, wisdom purchased with suffering, prophecy without control, magic that violates social norms. In Norse cosmology, the universe is not orderly in the way that Kemet imagines it. It is doomed, it is cynical and violent. Odin's role is not to stop that fate, it is to see it clearly. One of Odin's defining myths is the sacrifice of his eye at Mirmir's well. At the well, which is the source of knowledge, Odin is offered knowledge for a price. Not prayer, not devotion, but a body part. He gives up the eye to drink from the well. This is not symbolic modesty. This is a declaration. Awareness requires permanent loss. Odin does not gain vision by becoming whole. He gains it by becoming incomplete. From that moment on, Odin sees more than others, but never sees fully again. And this is a trade. Hanging from Yggdrasil. If the eye establishes cost, Yggdrasil establishes method. Odin hangs himself from the world tree for 9 nights. No food, no water, pierced by his own spear. He is not sacrificed to someone. He sacrifices himself to himself. This is not martyrdom, it is initiation. Through suffering, Odin perceives the ruins, symbols that encode reality itself. Language not as communication, but as structure. Here, Odin briefly overlaps with Thoth. Where Thoth records structure, Odin bleeds into it. Now, these ruins are not letters. These are not decorations. These are principles. Each ruin is a function of reality, a force that can shape events if understood correctly. Odin does not invent them, he uncovers them, and once uncovered, they cannot be forgotten. This is the reoccurring theme of Odin's awareness. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Odin practices Seor, a form of magic associated with fate, perception, and manipulation of outcomes. In Norse society, Seor is considered unmanly, taboo, dangerous. Odin practices it anyway, and this is critical. Odin is willing to violate social norms, gender roles, and divine expectations for the sake of understanding. Awareness does not respect comfort. And Odin in Ragnarok figures into all of this. Perhaps the most important aspect of Odin's cosmic awareness is this. He knows Ragnarok is coming. He knows the gods will fall. He knows the world will burn. He knows he will be devoured by Fenrir, and he cannot stop it. This is not failure. This is clarity. Odin's awareness is not about control. It's about comprehension without illusion. He prepares not to prevent the end, but ensures something survives. But Odin is not a savior. He does not save the world. He gathers knowledge, he gathers warriors, he gathers stories. Valhalla is not a paradise. It is a preparation. Odin's role is to make sure the universe understands itself as it ends. This is a different kind of responsibility. Odin's archetype echoes far beyond Scandinavia. He resembles wandering sages, one-eyed seers, trickster initiates, sacrificial knowledge figures. In modern psychology, he appears as the archetype of the knowledge seeker who pays too much of a price. In literature, he is a mentor who knows the cost but does not soften. In modern terms, Odin represents the consciousness that chooses awareness even when it hurts. He is the voice that says, you can know, but it will change you. You can see, but you will lose comfort. You can understand, but you cannot go back. He is not moral reassurance. He is consequence. Odin is not a god of victory. He is the god of vision earned through sacrifice. He stands at the center of the universe that cannot be saved, only understood. And he chooses understanding anyway. That is his power, not through domination, not through force, but the willingness to see clearly even when the truth demands blood. Long ago, when the North forgot how to sleep, the winter arrived quietly. Not the clean snow of stars, but a tired chill, heavy, lingering, very unsettled. Rivers froze in the wrong directions, shadows stayed longer than they should, and fear, left unattended, learned how to walk. But the heavens noticed. They debated, they hesitated. But in the far north, where night is patient, Paktai stood barefoot on the frozen ground. He did not rush, he did not shout. For many winters, Paktai had only done one thing. He had mastered himself. Each breath slowed with the storm within. Each silence sharpened his will. What no longer belonged to him fear, doubt, hunger for power fell away and wandered the world, believing itself free. Tonight, Paktai opened his eyes. From the quiet sky descended the ancient companions, the turtle, slow and enduring, and the snake, precise and final. They did not coil and threat. They rested. Paktai took up his sword, not in anger, but in clarity, and walked into the shadow beneath the frozen rivers, where restless things had built a kingdom of noise. The darkness expected struggle. It expected fear. Instead, it met stillness. Each step Paktai took returned something to the balance. Each strike unraveled what should have never been. No screams, no chaos, only correction. When the last shadow dissolved, Paktai placed his sword into the earth. The rivers remembered how to flow. The cold softened into winter, not warning, and the north exhaled. From that night on, Paktai was known as Zen Wu, the true warrior, not because he conquered others, but because he never needed to. They say he still walks when the earth grows loud with corruption, not to punish, not to terrify, but to remind things where they belong. And when he passes, even evil finds itself too tired to continue. Rest now. The north is watching, and tonight it is calm. The myth of Arachne. Arachne is born in the land of Lydia, the daughter of a humble dyer of wool. She does not come from nobility. She is not taught by priests or temples, but what she has is skill. From a young age, her hands move with quiet certainty. Threads bend to her will, colors settle into patterns no one has ever seen before. Her weaving is not merely decorative, it's alive with detail, balance, and precision. People travel from distant towns just to watch her work. At first, they say her talent must be a gift from the goddess Athena, who is the patron of wisdom and weaving. But over time, as Arachne's reputation grows, people begin to speak differently about her. They say her skill does not resemble a gift. They say it surpasses the goddess herself. Arachne hears the rumors and does not deny them. She says plainly that she owes Athena nothing. She says if the goddess wishes to test her, she is welcome to do so. And Athena hears this. She comes to Arachne not in glory, but disguised as an old woman, leaning heavily on an old weathered staff. Her voice is calm, almost kind. She warns Arachne to show humility, to respect the gods, to withdraw her challenge. But Arachne refuses. She says skill should stand on its own. She says truth does not bow to authority. And then in that moment, the disguise falls away. Athena reveals herself, radiant and severe, and the true contest now begins. Two looms are set side by side. Athena weaves first. Her tapestry is perfect in structure and form. It shows the gods in all their splendor, majestic, orderly, unchallenged. Mortals who defy them are punished. And the message is clear. Power rules, and rebellion leads only to ruin. And then Arachne weaves. Her hands move swiftly, confidently, without any hesitation. And her tapestry tells a different story. She shows the gods as they truly behave. Zeus disguising himself to deceive mortal women, gods abusing power, betraying trust, breaking the very rules they demand others obey. There is no distortion in this, no exaggeration, only accuracy. When the tapestries are finished, the difference is unmistakable. Athena's work is truly flawless, but Arachne's is flawless as well. But Arachne's tells a truth that Athena cannot tolerate. The goddess inspects the weaving closely, looking for an error, but of course she would find none. And in that moment, Athena understands that she is not lost because of weakness, but because of honesty. Enraged, she tears Arachne's tapestry apart. She strikes the girl, destroying the work that exposed the gods. In despair, Arachne collapses. In some tellings, she attempts to end her life, unable to bear the loss of her art and her dignity. But Athena would stop her, not out of mercy, but to deliver judgment. She transforms Arachne into a spider. Her body shrinks, her limbs twist, her fingers become legs, her loom becomes instinct. Finally, the goddess speaks again in her true form. Arachne will weave forever, but she will never again be praised. Her work will be hidden in corners and shadows. Her name will be remembered, but her voice will be gone. And so the spider weaves, thread after thread, pattern after pattern, silent, persistent, unacknowledged. The gods retain their authority, and the truth remains, but small, overlooked, and easy to dismiss. And the world moves on. The myth of Asar, death as continuity. Asar does not rule the dead because he died. He rules because he stayed in the underworld. In the Kemetic belief system, death is not an end state. It is a process transition. Asar is not a god who escaped death. He is the god who accepted its role and made it functional. He does not return to rule the living. He does not seek his throne back. He does not even seek to avenge himself. Instead, he becomes the access that allows life to continue without him. When Set murders Asar, it's not just fratricide, it is a disruption. Order is broken, not by chaos alone, but also by the removal of continuity. Aset does not resurrect Asar to reclaim his crown. She restores him enough to anchor the system. Asar now becomes something new. Not just a king of Kemet, not a ruler of men, but a ruler of after. And this is not defeat. This is cosmic specialization. He is the first god to stay dead. Many gods die. Asar is the first to understand that staying dead matters. He does not haunt the living. He does not walk the earth in disguise. He does not demand worship through fear. He sits in the duat, presiding over judgment, not as punishment, but as measurement. The heart is weighed, not for sin, but for balance. Death becomes a gate, not a wall. In Asarian beliefs, death is not exile. It is simply relocation. You are not erased. You are not trapped. You are not rewarded for conquest. You are assessed for alignment. Asar does not ask what you owned. He does not care what you conquered. He asks whether you lived your life in harmony with Ma'at. Continuity requires balance, not greatness. And this is why Asar is dangerous to empires. Empires require fear of death to function. Asar removes that leverage. If death is not annihilation, if it is not punishment, if it is not chaos, then rulers lose their greatest threat. Asar makes people harder to control. Now, Horus becomes the future, but his father Asar is the foundation. Horus avenges. Horus fights. Horus rules the living world. Asar does none of that. He assures that when Horus fails, when dynasties fall, when names are forgotten, existence itself does not collapse. Hades processes the dead. Hela houses him. Asar connects him. He is not the god of resurrection fantasies. He is the god of systems that survive loss. Death does not end in the Kemetic thought. It guarantees that life can begin again, without pretending that nothing was lost. Yemoja, mother of waters. Before cities learned to stand, before borders were drawn and defended, before names were carved in the stone and called eternal, there was water. And before water had a name, there was Yemoja. She was not born of the world. The world was shaped around her. From her body flowed rivers. From her breath came tides. From her depth came the rhythm that taught life how to move. The first people did not be near water by accident. They gathered where she rested. They drank from her hands. They bathed their newborns in her blessing. They buried their dead where the currents would carry the memories away. They knew what water meant. They called her mother, not just because she was gentle, but because she endured. Umoja carried life the way oceans carry storms, patiently, heavily, without asking for praise. She fed the fish. She cooled the land. She taught women how to give birth. And she taught men how fragile survival truly was. Water was the first cradle, and their people remembered that at first. At first, they sang to the rivers. They left offerings at the shores, and they spoke her name before crossing dangerous waters, and thanked her when they returned alive. They knew waters were something very sacred. They knew some depths were not meant to be entered. And that balance was not written in the books back then. It was felt. It was carried in the people, on their tongues and in their hearts, but most assuredly in their memories. And that, unfortunately, was the flaw, because memories faded faster than the rivers flow. And over time, these villages, well, they grew into towns. And towns gave way to much larger cities. And it was in the cities that men grew bold, and the cities themselves became that which was worshipped. Stone replaced reverence. Walls replaced gratitude. Water became something to be controlled, not to be honored. They cut into her veins to redirect rivers. They poisoned her depth and called it progress. They took from her endlessly, then blamed her when the waters changed. Then they stopped asking. They stopped listening. They forgot that the same force that nourishes also remembers. And most of all, Umoja felt it. Every child who was lost to greed, every shoreline that was scarred, every offering replaced instead by arrogance, her grief did not arrive suddenly. It accumulated. It settled into her depths like pressure, like memory, like sorrow with nowhere left to go. And when the balance finally broke, when the talking outweighed the giving, Umoja wept. Her tears did not fall gently. They became rivers that no longer obeyed banks. They became rains that did not stop even when begged. They became tides that erased borders drawn by men who believed that land was permanent. Villages vanished first, and then the great arrogant cities. Streets became canals. Temples sank. Names dissolved into silt. Civilizations that believed themselves chosen were swallowed by ceremony. No armies could ever march against her. No wall ever argued successfully with the sea, because water does not negotiate. Water reclaims. And still, Umoja was not cruel. She was precise. To those who honored life, she was protection, a guiding current, a warm ripple in the soft waters, a safe passage to the home that was always there to greet you. To those who exploited, polluted, and dominate, she represented correction, not vengeance, but correction, a gentle teaching of the right order of things. Because water cleanses, and water remembers better than anything else. Water waits longer than any angry child ever could. Every river still remembers where it came from. Every body is still mostly water, and every death still returns to her. She is the womb that gives life. She is the grave that receives it back. And when the world forgets us again, as it always does, when the cities with their arrogance and convenience rise too high, when the arrogance grows heavier than wisdom, when humanity mistakes dominance for balance, Umoja will rise again. Not in rage, not in hatred, but in inevitability. Because water does not hate, it simply remembers. And the thing it remembers most is how to come home. Tiamat, the first mother of monsters. Before there were gods with names, before temples, before prayers, before fear knew how to kneel, there was Tiamat. Not born, not created, not crowned. She was. She was the saltwater ocean before shorelines existed, the dark womb before light learned how to speak, the roar beneath creation, where nothing had yet decided what it wanted to be. Tiamat was not evil. She was not kind. She was unfiltered existence. In the beginning, there was only mingling. Fresh water and salt. Apsu and Tiamat. Stillness and motion folding into one another. From this union came the younger gods. Loud, restless, impatient. They shouted inside the silence. They stirred the waters. They forgot that they were guests inside a body older than time. And the old gods began to ache. Apsu wanted silence back. He planned destruction not out of cruelty, but out of exhaustion. The young gods killed him first. They struck the quiet father down, and the waters trembled. Tiamat felt it. Not as grief alone, but as betrayal. Creation had turned on its source. Something ancient woke up in her depths. Not rage, not vengeance. Correction. The sea does not scream when it floods a city. It simply returns things to where they belong. Tiamat did not declare war. She responded. She gave birth again. This time, not to gods who would forget her. This time she birthed monsters. Serpents with venom instead of prayers. Dragons with eyes like eclipses. Creatures shaped by fear itself. Not because she loved chaos, but because chaos was truth before order learned how to lie. A consort forged for war, and the heavens shook. The younger gods panicked. They had learned how to rule, but not how to face their mother. They searched for a weapon. They searched for a hero. They chose Marduk. Not because he was the oldest, not because he was the wisest, but because he promised control. Marduk did not face Tiamat as a son. He faced her as a system. He brought nets to trap the infinite winds, to suffocate the ocean. Words to define what should never have been named. And when he struck her down, creation didn't cheer, it split. From her body, the world was built. Her ribs became the sky. Her blood became the rivers. Her bones became the foundation of order. Civilization rose on a corpse, and all the gods called it victory. But listen closely. Chaos was never destroyed. It was never dissected. Tiamat did not vanish. She was repurposed. Every storm that ignores your prayers, every flood that erases borders, every moment where systems collapse under their own arrogance, that is her breath moving through the cracks. Tiamat is not a villain. She is the reminder that order is temporary, that control is borrowed, that creation always comes from something older, darker, and deeper than comfort allows. She is the mother civilization buried alive, and she is still dreaming. The gods fear chaos because it reminds them of what they were before they learned how to rule, that they were simply aspects of the universe, no greater or lesser than any other creation. Akan clears the path for civilization. Before cities learn to rise, before roads learn the patience of footsteps, before iron learned obedience beneath the hammer, the world was wild. and the wild did not welcome gods. The forest was older than memory, thicker than intention, a living wall of root and thorn and shadow. It swallowed light itself. It erased direction. It devoured anything that entered without its permission. So the gods descended to earth with a purpose, to shape, to order, to build. But even they were stopped cold at the forest's edge. Purpose means nothing when the land itself refuses you. The forest did not fear thunder. It did not bow to wisdom. It did not care for beauty or prophecy. This was not a forest you reasoned with. This was not a land you charmed. This was a thing that resisted existence itself. So the gods argued. Some said, "Let us reason with it." Others said, "Let us wait." And a few whispered, "Perhaps this world is not meant to be tamed." All this transpired until Ogun stepped forward. Ogun, called Ogun Orniri, Lord of Iron. Ogun Alada, Master of the Blade. Ogun Onikola, Breaker of Stone. The Path Opener. The Forge Master, the Eater of Fire and Blood. He was war before armies, labor before industries, iron before it learned its own name. Where other gods carried crowns or symbols, Ogun carried tools. A heavy axe with purpose, a blade darkened by forged smoke and sacrifice, hammer and anvil bound to his spirit. Ogun was not simply a god of war, he was a god of work. Of the strike, of the cut, of the moment something raw becomes something shaped, the greatest forger in all existence, able to pull iron from stone and obedience from chaos. When Ogun approached the forest, it did not tremble, it did not bow, it did not even recognize him. So Ogun did not speak. He stepped into the forest and raised his axe. The first blow split a tree that had never fallen. Sap spilled like blood from the roots of the earth. The forest recoiled, then attacked. Vines wrapped his arms. Thorns tore his flesh. Roots rose like serpents to pull him down. And Ogun laughed and swung again. Each strike was deliberate, not wild, not careless. This was the precision of destruction. Trees cracked like bones, stones shattered beneath iron. The jungle screamed as centuries of dominance were reduced to splinters and smoke. Fire followed him, not as chaos, but as a tool. Controlled, intentional, necessary. Ogun burned what could not be cut what could not be moved, and bled when the forest demanded payment. And the forest always demanded payment. Every step forward was earned, every clearing soaked into the soil. This was not creation through harmony, this was creation through force. And the gods watched in silence as Ogun carved a wound through the world, wide enough for them to follow. And then the forest finally broke. When sunlight struck ground that had never known warmth, something new was born, a path, not just a road of earth and ash, but the first idea of civilization. Villages followed the clearing. Homes rose where trees once ruled. Metal learned its purpose in human hands. Axes became tools. Tools became weapons. Weapons became protection. And every one of them belonged to Ogun. He became the guardian of the blacksmiths, of roads and bridges, of laborers whose hands bled for progress. But the people quickly learned something else. The God who opens the path is also the God who can close it. Ogun did not soften once the work was done. He walked among the warriors and the executioners, among hunters and keen, among builders who knew that every act of creation risked destruction. He blessed the plow, the blade that defined the harvest. He guarded the road, and the blood spilled upon it, so the people feared him. They poured palm wine at his shrines, left iron tools as offerings, spoke his name with respect, if not affection. But Ogun does not protect innocence. He protects function. He does not promise peace, he promises progress. And progress is never gentle. Akan reminds the world of truth that it prefers to forget. Civilization is born in violence. Order is carved, not gifted. And every tool carries the memory of the blade that made it possible. The forest did not open willingly. It was forced open. And the road still remembers the God who cut into its existence. Bringer of breath, civilizer of worlds. Now the wind does not announce itself. It moves first, unseen, shaping what follows. Across the ancient lands of Mesoamerica, there existed a presence whose power was not measured by conquest, but by continuity. A force that did not rule through terror, but through order. An intelligence that shaped civilizations without demanding their submission. They call this presence Quetzalcoatl, known as the Feathered Serpent, a being where sky and earth converge in one, where motion is governed by restraint, where creation begins not with command, but with breath. He was not worshipped as a tyrant. He was remembered as a guide. Now, Quetzalcoatl was never a single image, nor a single role. He moved through cultures and centuries under many names, each reflecting a function rather than a disguise. As Quetzalcoatl, he was the Feathered Serpent, the union of earthbound life and celestial motion. Feathers representing the sky, scales representing the ground, neither being dominant, both being necessary. As Ihikatl, he was the wind itself, invisible, essential, life-giving, the breath that animates the world, clears stagnation, and carries sacred speech from one age to the next. Among the Maya, he was remembered as Kukulkan, an echo rather than imitation, proof that his influence traveled farther than borders and endured longer than empires. These were not separate gods. These were aspects of the same civilizing force. His role as the civilizer. Quetzalcoatl did not create humanity to rule it. He prepared humanity to survive. He is credited with bringing maize from the mountains where it is hidden and transforming this sustenance into civilization. He established calendars so time itself could be measured, remembered, and anticipated. He gave humanity sacred speech, language not only for command, but for teaching, for prayer, and for recording. As Ihikatl, the wind, he moved the sun across the sky so the world would not stagnate in darkness. Breath, motion, rhythm. These were his domains. Where other gods demanded sacrifice to prove loyalty, Quetzalcoatl emphasized balance. Order was not enforced, it was simply taught. The descent into Metatron. When the world stood empty of humanity, Quetzalcoatl descended into Metatron, the realm of the dead, where the remains of previous ages lay guarded by these lords of death. Now these bones were not relics, they were potentials, and the rulers of Metatron did not yield them willingly. They tested Quetzalcoatl with impossible trials, attempting to entrap him in his failure. And in the struggle, he stumbled, and the bones shattered. Creation itself, it seemed to have failed again. But Quetzalcoatl did not retreat. He gathered the broken remains and spilled his own divine blood upon them. From sacrifice, not dominance, humanity emerged. Imperfect, fragile, and varied. Human beings were not forged as flawless instruments. They were born of loss and intention. And this imperfection was not a flaw, it was the point. The Age of Order. In later ages, Quetzalcoatl walked among humanity as ruler priest, remembered as Tolpitzin Quetzalcoatl, presiding over the city of Tula. His rule was defined not by expansion, but by refinement. Human sacrifice was rejected, arts and learning flourished, craftsmanship, astronomy, and ritual knowledge became the foundations of society. Under this guidance, civilization advanced without descending into cruelty, and this was rare, and rarity often brings attention. Where Quetzalcoatl represented restraint and continuity, Tezcatlipoca embodied conflict, reflection, and disruption. He did not confront Quetzalcoatl with armies, he confronted him with a mirror. And in that mirror, Quetzalcoatl saw not a god, but a flawed being, aging, mortal, capable of error. Temptation followed, sacred boundaries blurred. The myth does not dwell on indulgence, it dwells on consequence. Quetzalcoatl recognized that he had fallen short of his own principles, and instead of doubling down on authority, he chose removal. Exile and transformation. Quetzalcoatl did not cling to power. He left. Some traditions say he walked eastward towards the sea. Others say he burned himself on a pyre. The details differ, but the meaning remains constant. He refused to rule dishonestly. Before the gods argued, before the eye fled, Anhur was already known, not as a destroyer, not as a lover, not as a trickster, but he was known as a god who goes where others stop. Anhur is tall, broad shoulders, dark of skin like the black land at flood season. He wears the four-feathered crown, not for beauty, but for domination, each feather making a cardinal direction, a reminder that he advances in all directions at once. His eyes do not burn, they measure. His weapon is not ornate, it is a spear, long and perfectly balanced, forged not for ceremony, but for precision. In temple tradition, the spear is sometimes called he who fixes the line. It is not enchanted with fire or thunder, its power is simpler and more frightening. Where the spear is planted, chaos may not pass. Anhur does not shout in battle. He does not taunt. He does not chase glory. He ends things. The flight of Tefnut. The goddess who fled was Tefnut, the eye of Ra, breath of heat, moisture and cosmic tension. She was not only rain and dew, but she was pressure, the force that makes the sky press upon the earth and keeps creation sealed. When Tefnut grows wrathful, balance ruptures. And so she fled. She crossed the cultivated land without looking back. She passed beyond temples, beyond prayers, into the Red Land, where gods lose their titles and take on older names. There she became Pharaoh, lioness-faced, radiant, burning the moisture from the air itself. The Nile receded, borders weakened, foreign enemies stirred. Ra did not curse her, he waited. Thoth goes first. Thoth followed her tracks into the Red Land with measured steps. He carried no weapon, only words, spells, and names. He reminded her of who she was. You are moisture, he said. Without you, the world cracks. Tefnut laughed, a dry, rasping sound, then let it crack. Thoth returned unharmed. Wisdom failed, not because it was wrong, because she no longer cared to hear it. Nephthys came next. As she followed her, cloaked in dusk, she did not lecture, she offered comfort. She spoke of home. She spoke of Isis, of the rhythm of night returning after day. And Tefnut listened for a moment. Then the heat rose again. Your kindness is a chain, she said, and I have broken free. And Nephthys wept, and the tears turned to steam before they touched the sand. And she returned alone. Shu called upon her as her brother. Hathor sang her a glorious song. In each return, the Red Land does not yield to persuasion once wrath has crowned itself queen. So Ra summons Anhur. Only then did Ra speak the name which was not sung. Anhur did not prepare for offerings. He did not ask questions. He took his spear. His journey was not swift. He crosses the borderlands where human fear thickens in the air, the dry lands where the moisture gods weaken, the silent dunes where even names dissolve. Storms rise, not to stop him, but to test his resolve. Spirits whisper, not to deceive him, but to measure his discipline. And Anhur does not respond. Where others rush, he paces. Where others find shadows, he ignores them. He is not hunting Tefnut's body, he is hunting the line she crossed. They meet where the sky presses low and the earth cracks open. Tefnut appears as a lioness in flame, her breath scorching stone. Another god has come to leash me, she snarls. Anhur plants his spear. The wind dies. No, he says, I have come to restore hope. She attacks, not wildly, but with divine fury. Each strike reshapes the land. Each roar bends the horizon. And Anhur does not counterstrike. He contains. Each step he takes tightens the world around her. Each movement narrows her freedom. Not dominance, just constraint. And at last the spear touches her throat. Not hard, not trembling, but steady. You are not chaos, Anhur says. You are pressure. Pressure without form destroys what it is made to preserve. And for the first time, Tefnut hesitates. She does not submit, but she acknowledges. She steps back and she follows. And as they walk, moisture returns to the land, not as flood, but as breath. The Nile remembers its rhythm, borders harden. When they reach Ra, Anhur steps, for he does not take credit. He simply moves to clean his spear. When Apep and Amet had an argument over a soul, the acrid stench of sulfur and brimstone clawed its way into the nostrils of the damned as they stumbled through the smoldering, dark caverns of the underworld. Lost souls wailed in agony, their cries echoing off the jagged, charred rocks walls. Among them was a newly arrived human man, his twisted soul tainted by a lifetime of unspeakable act. Please, no, he whimpered, his voice barely audible above the cacophony of suffering that surrounded him. His legs trembled beneath him as he navigated the treacherous footing, each step threatening to send him careening into the abyss below. This was the fate that awaited the man who had been a serial killer, a racist, and a rapist in his time on the mortal plane. He knew what he had done, but the full weight of his actions had never truly settled upon him until this moment. Silence, worm! Came a guttural roar from the shadows as a monstrous figure emerged before him. The demon's eyes burned with the intensity of 1,000 infernal fires, piercing the darkness like twin beacons of pure hate. Its bellows stirred the tortured air around them, sending sparks dancing across the molten ground. You are not my judge, the man stammered, trying to find solace in these words. I have been judged already. Indeed you have, the demon sneered, its voice dripping with venom. And what a pathetic creature you have been deemed. A life of terror, bigotry, and brutality, unfettered cruelty in all its forms. You belong here among the damned. The man tried to look away, to shield himself from the glare of the beast, but he found himself unable to tear his gaze from the demonic visage. He could feel the icy tendrils of fear wrapping themselves around his heart, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. What would he do? How could he possibly escape this nightmare? Please, he whimpered once more, desperation etched into every syllable. I beg you, let me go. Go? The demon barked with a harsh, mocking laughter. You think you're worthy of mercy? After all you've done? As he stood there under the weight of the demon's contempt, the man couldn't help but become more ensnared in the horrifying truth that had been laid bare before him. He realized that he had no defense for his actions, no justification for his weakness. His soul quivered in terror, longing for redemption that seemed forever out of reach. May whatever gods that still listen have mercy upon me, he murmured, his tears streaming down his face as he surrendered himself to the darkness that had come to claim him. The man's tears fell upon the scorched earth, sizzling as they evaporated. The air itself seemed to tremble with sinister energy that chilled him to his core. Before him, the ground cracked open, revealing a yawning chasm from which a monstrous figure emerged. Apep, the great chaos dragon. "Your soul is mine," Apep rumbled, her voice like thunder echoing in the depths of the underworld. Her serpentine body slithered forth, scales glistening with an unnatural iridescence, and her eyes locked into the man with a hunger that made his blood run cold. "Wait," another voice boomed, and Amoke, the devourer of souls, stepped into view. The monstrous being had the head of a crocodile, body of a lion, and the aura of overwhelming malevolence. "He is mine. I claim this soul." Apep's massive form coiled, and she bared her fangs, venom dripping from their deadly tips. "You dare challenge me, Amoke? I am the embodiment of chaos, and this man wreaked havoc on the world above. He belongs to me." Amoke's laughter rumbled like distant thunder, and its crocodile maw snapped shut with a sickening crunch. His heart fell to judgment, and so he must be devoured by me. It is the law. As the two otherworldly beings argued, the man could do nothing but watch, his mind reeling at the prospect of being torn apart by these fearsome creatures. Would he be consumed by the chaos of Apep, or devoured by the insatiable appetite of Amoke? "Enough," Apep roared, her wrath causing the very ground to tremble. "I will take what is mine rightfully, and you shall have no say in the matter." "Your arrogance is boundless, dragon," Amoke snarls back. "But I will not relent. This soul is destined for my jaws." The man's heart raced at a panic, threatening to overtake him. What could he do, faced with such implacable foes? He was but a pawn in their deadly game of power and domination. Within his chest he could feel cold tendrils of fear coiled tighter, strangling any semblance of hope. "Mercy," he whispered. His voice is barely audible. "Please show mercy." The monstrous figure seemed to pause for a moment in their own confrontation, momentarily taken aback by the man's pleas. But they would not spare him from their wrath. They would not even consider giving one such as him mercy. Not these two. He had no choice but to wait and see, his fate hanging in the balance like a thread about to snap. The man's eyes darted between the two fearsome beings, beads of cold sweat trickling down his forehead. Flames flickered in the cavernous underworld, causing sinister shadows that danced on the walls. Apep and Amoke continued their heated argument, each determined to claim the man's depraved soul. "Your hunger blinds you, Amoke," Apep bellowed, her voice echoing throughout the chamber. "Do not forget that I too have feasted on the souls of the wicked. This one shall sustain my powers, not yours." Amoke's crocodile maw snapped open, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "My purpose is clear, dragon. It is I who devours those unworthy of the afterlife. Your chaos will not sway me from this duty." And hours drag on, the man's leg weakened, threatening to buckle beneath him. He can't stare his gaze away from the monstrous beings locked in their battle of wills. Their voices grew louder and more insistent, drowning out any hope of a reprieve he might have clung to. Will they ever cease? He wondered, his mind racing with visions of his own agonizing demise. What if neither relents, and they both tear me apart? Suddenly the deafening din ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that sends shivers down the man's spine. He glanced around, searching for the cause, and his heart stopped as a new figure emerged from the shadows. "Enough," Asar, the perfect black, commanded, his voice calm yet firm. "I have heard your arguments, and I shall make a judgment." The man's chest tightened as he stared at the godlike being, clad in darkness and radiating in an aura of pure authority. Desperate, he tries to will his trembling body to stand tall, to show some semblance of dignity in the face of his ultimate fate, his ultimate judgment. "Please," he whispered, his voice shaking, "show me mercy." Asar's expression remained impassive as he turned his gaze upon the man. Your actions of life have brought you here, to this place of judgment. The choice I make shall reflect the weight of your deeds. As the man awaited his fate, his thoughts spun wildly, each more hopeless than the last. His thought remained constant. Mercy, please grant me mercy. I am Asar, and I cast judgment upon you. Because you have failed the weighing of the heart, you will be devoured by Amet. But you have also caused chaos, so I shall renew your soul, and the succession night you shall be eaten by the chaos of Apet. And thus shall be your fate, from day to day, feeding the power of the two on this plane that you served in the mortal world. The Greek myth of origin, from the beginnings in chaos to the primeval gods and the Titans. According to the Greek poet Hesiod's Theogony, at first only chaos existed, and chaos is the term given to the dark chasm that gave rise to the fundamental forces or primordial gods, such as earth, sky, and darkness. And thus, the mold of the universe was fashioned from these gods. Chaos manifested its children in spontaneous birth, and these were Gaia, who was earth, Eros, who was sexual love, Tartarus, who was the underworld, Erebus, who was darkness, and Nyx, who was night. Gaia was the primordial goddess responsible for manifesting the entire physical world, including the land, the flora and the fauna, the sea and the sky. Ether or brightness and Chimera or day emerged from the union of Erebus and Nyx, thus darkness creating light. Uranus and Gaia were parents to 12 Titans, who were very powerful deities. There were 3 Cyclopses, one-eyed giants, and 3 ferocious hundred-handed giants, known as the Hundred-Handers. Night gave birth to doom, death, strife, sleep, and the goddess of retribution, among many others. The Titans. The powerful Titans were a mighty race that held dominion over the cosmos during the time of the Golden Age. These gods were the first generation of Titan gods and descended from the primeval gods Uranus and Gaia. And Uranus and Gaia had given birth to 12 Titans, 6 of whom were males and 6 who were females. The males were Koios, Cronus, Crius, Hyperion, Leptus, and Oceanus. The females being Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, and Tethys. These gods were immortal giants who possessed inspiring strength and knowledge of the ancient religions, as well as many skills in magic. They were known as the Elder Gods. The Titans rise to power. Now Cronus, with his brothers and his mother, plotted to overthrow Uranus, and one day they castrated the great god and stole control of the universe away from him, and thus the second generations of Titans would be born. Because during this time, the brothers and the sisters mingled with each other and would associate with the sons and daughters of their kin. Eos, Helios, and Selene were the offspring of Hyperion and Thea. Koios and Phoebe became parents to Leto and Asteria. Oceana and Potmec were the offspring of Oceanus and Tethys. Crius consorted with his half-sister Erebus and gave birth to Astraeus, Pallas, and Perseus. Cronus and Rheus would produce a multitude of younger gods, including Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Hera, Hestia, and Demeter. And it was those who would ultimately rebel against their father Cronus, just as he had done to his father Uranus and his followers. This rebellion lasted for 10 years and was called the Titanomachy. This was what led to the defeat of the old order of Titans and led to a new order, kinged by Zeus himself. They called themselves the Olympians after Mount Olympus, where they established their home. All except for Hades, whose new dominion would be the underworld. And this set in motion a new age with a set of new gods to rule the universe. Hades, the god who never lied. Now Hades is not feared because he is cruel. He is feared because he is honest. While all the other gods bargain, seduce, disguise, deceive, Hades does none of this. He does not appear in disguise, he does not test mortals, he does not pretend to be merciful, nor does he threaten punishment to inspire obedience. He simply administers death. There is no spectacle in his realm, no fires or brimstone, no screaming choirs of the damned. The underworld is not a torture chamber, it's a bureaucracy of eternity. Souls arrive, they are processed, and they are placed where they belong. Not where they want to be, not where they hope to be, where they truly and actually belong. And Hades does not lie because lies require desire. And among all things, Hades desires nothing. He is death as an administration. Now in Greek myth, chaos is not death. It is unchanged life. It's endless ambition, endless reproduction, endless conquest. Death is the corrective mechanism that keeps existence from collapsing under its own excess. So Hades is not the enemy of life, but he is its boundary. When kings overreach, Zeus strikes them down. When heroes rage, Ares feeds on their violence. When lovers betray, it is Aphrodite who stirs more chaos. But when people die, when the end comes, Hades simply does his job. He has no judgment speeches. He has no speeches at all. He's not going to punish you with his words. He's not going to ridicule you. And he is the only god who is known to 100% keep his word. If Hades says something will happen, it happens. When Orpheus descends into the underworld to retrieve Eurydice, Hades does not trick him. He gives him a single condition. Do not look back. No hidden clauses, no divine wordplay. Orpheus fails not because Hades lies, but because humans cannot resist doubt. That was his downfall. The tragedy is not Hades' cruelty, it is Orpheus' inability to trust certainty. Hades never breaks the rules. He is the rules. Now, why the gods fear him? Now, the Olympians rule through personality. It's ego, emotion, alliances. Hades rules through finality. Zeus can be overthrown. Poseidon can be defied. Hera can be appeased. Even war can be avoided. Death cannot. Hades does not need worshippers. He does not need temples. He does not need praise. Every god eventually answers to him, although quietly. Now, Persephone is the only compromise that we see, and this is the one story people cling to as evidence of Hades' villainy, the story of his wife. This is not a story of abuse. It is a story of cosmic balance. Hades does not kidnap her in secret. He asks Zeus for permission. He follows protocol of their world and their time. The seasons change not because Hades is cruel, but because death must share time with life. Persephone becomes queen not by force, but by eating the seed, by accepting the role. And even love in the underworld is contractual. And Hades is vastly misunderstood. Humans prefer lies that feel good over truths that feel cold. They would rather believe in punishment than accept this as maintenance. Hades does not judge you. He does not care if you are famous, rich, or loved. He only ensures that nothing overstays its welcome. In a universe ruled by ego, he is the only god who operates without one. Hades is not evil. Hades is necessary. And that is why he will never be loved in the way that the others are. Because love wants exceptions, and death does not accept those. The night on Route 3. September 19th, 1961. It's just after midnight, northern New Hampshire. The road is narrow and dark, cutting through forest that hasn't decided whether it wants to belong to the night or to the moonlight. Pine trees line both sides, tall and close, their tops catching just enough pale silver light to be visible. The air is cool and clean, the kind that sharpens your breath when you inhale. Damp earth, resin, the faint sweetness of leaves beginning to rot. There is no traffic, no distant glow. So when the car moves, it feels like the only thing awake. Barney Hill drives with both hands on the wheel, straight-backed, quiet. His eyes move constantly. Road, mirrors, tree line, sky. He's not tense, but he's never careless. Night has taught him to stay attentive. Betty sits behind him, relaxed, talking off and on, letting silence settle when it needs to. She's wearing a simple dress, soft fabric, nothing fancy. Shoes meant for walking, not for running. The kind you forget that you're wearing. The moon hangs low and steady, not dramatically, not ominously, just present. It flattens distance, it stretches shadows, it makes the forest feel closer than it really is. That's when Betty notices the light. At first, it's barely worth mentioning. A bright point above the tree line, steady and white. She almost ignores it, but something about it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't twinkle, it doesn't blink. She points it out. Barney glances up, and the light moves. Not drifting, not falling, but adjusting. It slides across the sky with intent, correcting its position as if responding to them. The air inside the car feels heavy all of a sudden, like pressure before a storm that never comes. They keep driving, and the light keeps pace. It doesn't rush, it doesn't lag. It simply remains. Closer now, lower than it should be. Its glow is contained, dense, almost solid, not spilling onto the night, but pressing against it. And Barney slows. The road curves around Indian Head Mountain. The forest tightens. Moonlight breaks into pieces between the branches. So he pulls over. The engine cuts. Metal ticks softly as it cools. The silence afterward is immense. Barney steps out of the car, gravel shifting under his shoes. The smell of pine is sharper here, but it's mixed with something else, faint, metallic, like ozone. The air feels thick, charged, alive. He raises the binoculars. The object is close now, too close. Disc shape, smooth, no wings, no seams, no sound. It hovers without effort, light pulsing softly within it, not bright enough to blind, but impossible to ignore. And then he sees the windows, and behind them, figures. Upright, humanoid, still. Their faces are pale. Their eyes are large and dark, unblinking. They don't react when he notices them. They don't move closer or further away. They just watch. The gaze lands on him with weight. Not curiosity, not threat, but assessment. Something cold moved through Barney's chest, sharp and immediate. This is not imagination. This is not confusion. And this is not fear of the unknown. This is recognition of being outmatched. He lowers his binoculars and runs. Gravel skids beneath his feet. His breath comes fast. His heart hammers. He doesn't shout. There's no time for that. He gets back into the car and drives. Betty doesn't blink. She doesn't react. They pull onto the road, tires crunching, engine roaring too loud for a quiet forest. The light moves with them, keeping pace, floating alongside it as if the road meant nothing to it. And then the sound. Beep, beep, beep. It's not loud. It doesn't echo, but it vibrates. The steering wheel hums under Barney's hands. The seats tremble. The vibration climbs through the frame of the car and into their bodies, settling into their eyes, tightening the jaws. The air tastes metallic. Betty's ears ring. Her skin prickles. The forest blurs, and then there is no road. There is no sky. There is no memory. Time doesn't slow. It just disappears. When awareness returns, the car is moving. The road stretches ahead, empty and familiar. The forest looks unchanged. The moon hasn't moved nearly enough, but 2 hours are gone. Betty looks down at herself. Her dress is torn at the hem, fabric pulled and stretched. Dirt smears her shoes in places she doesn't remember stepping. Barney's shoes are scuffed too. At the toes, not worn, but they look dragged. His watch is dead. The second hand is frozen mid-tick. They don't talk about it, but they drive. When they reach home, the house feels smaller than it should. Too quiet. Out inside the lock. Inside, the familiar smells of wood and fabric settle around them. But underneath all that is something sharp and thin, like a place they didn't bring with them, but didn't leave behind either. Betty changes clothes slowly. She runs her fingers over the tears in her dress, trying to remember what happened. Barney sits at the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. His jaws tight. His shoulders stay raised long after there's nothing to brace for. That night, sleep comes unevenly. Betty dreams, not fragments, not symbols, but clear scenes, repeating. Lights without shadows, narrow corridors, figures who don't speak but somehow answer. A room where she lies still while something examines her. Not cruel, not gentle, but precise. She wakes with her heart racing and the feeling that something has just stepped away. Barney doesn't dream. He lies awake, listening to the house breathe. Every sound feels too close. When he closes his eyes, he sees the eyes again, unblinking, calm and certain. Days pass, then weeks. They try not to talk about it, but the silence grows heavy. Certain smells bring it back, certain sounds, the way the night feels when it's too still, when the air seems to pause. Sometimes Betty finds herself staring at the sky longer than she means to. Sometimes Barney wakes feeling tense, his fists clenched, his body remembering something that his mind refuses to hold. And life continues, but something remains open. Some nights, when the road outside is empty and the world feels held in place, it feels just like it did in New Hampshire, like the air is waiting, like the dark is paying attention. And once you've felt that, once you've felt the vibration settle in your bones, once you know what it's like to be seen without being known, you don't forget. You learn how to live with this lesson. And this is a story of the alien myth. The myth of Asar, death as continuity. Asar does not rule the dead because he died. He rules because he stayed in the underworld. In the Kemetic belief system, death is not an end state. It is a process transition. Asar is not a god who escaped death. He is the god who accepted its role and made it functional. He does not return to rule the living. He does not seek his throne back. He does not even seek to avenge himself. Instead, he becomes the axis that allows life to continue without him. When Set murders Asar, it's not just fratricide, it is a disruption. Order is broken, not by chaos alone, but also by the removal of continuity. Aset does not resurrect Asar to reclaim his crown. She restores him enough to anchor the system. Asar now becomes something new. Not just a king of Kemet, not a ruler of men, but a ruler of after. And this is not defeat. This is cosmic specialization. He is the first god to stay dead. Many gods die. Asar is the first to understand that staying dead matters. He does not haunt the living. He does not walk the earth in disguise. He does not demand worship through fear. He sits in the duat, presiding over judgment, not as punishment, but as measurement. The heart is weighed, not for sin, but for balance. Death becomes a gate, not a wall. In Asarian beliefs, death is not exile. It is simply relocation. You are not erased. You are not trapped. You are not rewarded for conquest. You are assessed for alignment. Asar does not ask what you owned. He does not care what you conquered. He asks whether you lived your life in harmony with Ma'at. Continuity requires balance, not greatness. And this is why Asar is dangerous to empires. Empires require fear of death to function. Asar removes that leverage. If death is not annihilation, if it is not punishment, if it is not chaos, then rulers lose their greatest threat. Asar makes people harder to control. Now, Horus becomes the future, but his father Asar is the foundation. Horus avenges. Horus fights. Horus rules the living world. Asar does none of that. He assures that when Horus fails, when dynasties fall, when names are forgotten, existence itself does not collapse. Hades processes the dead. Hela houses him. Asar connects him. He is not the god of resurrection fantasies. He is the god of systems that survive loss. Death does not end in the Kemetic thought. It guarantees that life can begin again, without pretending that nothing was lost. Pele, goddess of fire, creation, and jealousy. Before the islands had names, before stone remembered the shape of mountains, before land dared to rise above the sea, there was only movement. The ocean whirled endlessly, dark and conscious, and within it traveled a force that refused stillness. Her name was Pele. She was not born in one place. She emerged again and again, from flame, from hunger, from the deep furnace of the world. Pele was fire with intention. Her hair flowed like smoke caught in the wind, black and endless, carrying embers in its wake. Her skin glowed as if lit from within, sometimes warm as sunlit stone, sometimes red hot with fury. Her eyes were not gentle. They burned with the knowing of something older than fear. Where Pele walked, the earth opened. She carried fire not as destruction, but as becoming. Lava spilled from her footsteps, slow and unstoppable, reshaping the world without apology. The sea hissed when she approached, retreating from her heat, recoiling from her will. But Pele was not alone in the world. Beneath the waves, where light dies and pressure rules, dwelled her sister, Namaka. Namaka was the ocean given thought. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on black water. Her hair moved as currents move, slow, heavy, inexorable. Her eyes were deep, ancient, and cold with memory as only the sea could have. Where Pele burned with emotion, Namaka endured with patience. She ruled the deep places, the trenches, the crushing silence, where nothing escapes gravity or consequence. And she resented her sister. When Pele arrived, the sea was pushed back. Where fire rose, water was displaced. Each new land Pele created was a wound in Namaka's domain. To Namaka, Pele was reckless, too loud, too hungry, too disruptive. To Pele, Namaka was suffocating, a force that drowned passion, swallowed movement, and demanded stillness. They were not enemies born of hatred. They were sisters born of opposition. Fire that must move, water that must contain. When Pele first settled, she believed she could build a home. She dug into the earth, carving chambers for her flame, shaping mountains from molten stone. She believed the land would hold her. But Namaka would not allow it. With crashing waves and rising tides, Namaka answered. She flooded Pele's home, cooled her lava, shattered her growing islands, and dragged them back into the sea. Storms followed Pele wherever she lingered too long. Island after island, Pele was driven away. Each retreat hardened her. Each loss sharpened her jealousy, not of her sister's power, but of her sister's stability. Namaka already had a kingdom. The ocean accepted her without resistance. Pele had to fight for every inch of ground. And still she moved forward. She crossed the sea again and again, chased by waves, hunted by storms, carrying her fire across the dark. What humans would later call volcanoes are the scars of this journey, places where Pele tried to stay and was forced to flee. And then at last she reached Hawaii, the youngest island, the strongest spine of the stone. Here the earth did not break beneath her, it answered. Pele dug deep, deeper than she ever had before. She struck the mantle of the world itself, tapping into the planet's heart. Fire surged upward and stayed. Namaka became, again, furious. Waves slammed against the stone, storms tore at the land, but this time the land endured. Fire and water clashed, not to destroy each other, but to define their boundaries. And Pele remained. She claimed the volcano as her body and the island as her spine. She did not rule from the sea or the sky, she ruled from beneath. The people felt her presence in trembling ground, in glowing rivers of lava, in the fertile soil that followed destruction. Pele was not cruel, but she was emotional. She loved fiercely. And when she loved, she gave warmth, growth, and abundance. Forests returned when the lava had cooled. Life sprang that appeared to be dead. The people learned to honor her, to respect her fire, to speak her name with care. Because Pele was also jealous. When she was disrespected, when love was betrayed, when humans forgot the land was alive, her anger rose. Lava flowed without mercy, villages vanished beneath molten stone. It was not punishment, it was correction. Pele did not destroy out of hatred. She destroyed because stagnation is a lie. Fire clears what no longer serves, and creation requires sacrifice. Namaka watched from the deep, no longer chasing her sister, but never forgiving her. The ocean still presses against the land, testing it, reminding Pele that nothing remains unchallenged forever. They are still bound. Fire rises, water answers. The world is shaped between them. Even now, Pele sleeps beneath the islands. Not gone, not silent, but waiting. Because fire never truly rests. Yemoja, Mother of Waters. Before cities learned to stand, before borders were drawn and defended, before names were carved in the stone and called eternal, there was water. And before water had a name, there was Yemoja. She was not born of the world. The world was shaped around her. From her body flowed rivers. From her breath came tides. From her depth came the rhythm that taught life how to move. The first people did not veer near water by accident. They gathered where she rested. They drank from her hands. They bathed their newborns in her blessing. They buried their dead where the currents would carry the memories away. They knew what water meant. They called her mother, not just because she was gentle, but because she endured. Yemoja carried life the way oceans carry storms, patiently, heavily, without asking for praise. She fed the fish. She cooled the land. She taught women how to give birth. And she taught men how fragile survival truly was. Water was the first cradle, and their people remembered that. At first, they sang to the rivers. They left offerings at the shores, and they spoke her name before crossing dangerous waters, and thanked her when they returned alive. They knew waters were something very sacred. They knew some depths were not meant to be entered. And that balance was not written in the books back then. It was felt. It was carried in the people, on their tongues and in their hearts, but most assuredly in their memories. And that, unfortunately, was the flaw, because memories faded faster than the rivers flow. And over time, these villages, Well, they grew into towns, and towns gave way to much larger cities. And it was in the cities that men grew bold, and the cities themselves became that which was worshipped. Stone replaced reverence. Walls replaced gratitude. Water became something to be controlled, not to be honored. They cut into her veins to redirect rivers. They poisoned her depth and called it progress. They took from her endlessly, then blamed her when the waters changed. Then they stopped asking. They stopped listening. They forgot that the same force that nourishes also remembers. And most of all, Umoja felt it. Every child who was lost to greed, every shoreline that was scarred, every offering replaced instead by arrogance, her grief did not arrive suddenly. It accumulated. It settled into her depths like pressure, like memory, like sorrow with nowhere left to go. And when the balance finally broke, when the talking outweighed the giving, Umoja wept. Her tears did not fall gently. They became rivers that no longer obeyed banks. They became rains that did not stop even when begged. They became tides that erased borders drawn by men who believed that land was permanent. Villages vanished first, and then the great arrogant cities. Streets became canals. Temples sank. Names dissolved into silt. Civilizations that believed themselves chosen were swallowed by ceremony. No armies could ever march against her. No wall ever argued successfully with the sea, because water does not negotiate. Water reclaims. And still, Umoja was not cruel. She was precise. To those who honored life, she was protection, a guiding current, a warm ripple in the soft waters, a safe passage to the home that was always there to greet you. To those who exploited, polluted, and dominate, she represented correction, not vengeance, but correction, a gentle teaching of the right order of things. Because water cleanses, and water remembers better than anything else. Water waits longer than any angry child ever could. Every river still remembers where it came from. Every body is still mostly water, and every death still returns to her. She is the womb that gives life. She is the grave that receives it back. And when the world forgets us again, as it always does, when the cities with their arrogance and convenience rise too high, when the arrogance grows heavier than wisdom, when humanity mistakes dominance for balance, Umoja will rise again. Not in rage, not in hatred, but in inevitability. Because water does not hate, it simply remembers. And the thing it remembers most is how to come home. The air in the underworld was thick with malice and darkness, as if one could feel the very essence of chaos seeping into their bones. The solar bark of Ra glided silently through the inky blackness of this place, its golden hull cutting through the murky waters with the grace of a celestial swan. Atum Ra, his brilliant, sun-like aura dimmed to a mere flicker, stood at its helm, his gaze fixed on the eternal horizon, the ultimate force in the universe. He knew that it was the only way through this perilous journey that he could be reborn anew, bringing light and life to the world above. Set, the nectar of chaos, stood firmly at his side, his eyes glowing with determination. He knew the importance of the task at hand, to defend Atum Ra from the vile clutches of Apep. The bark itself was a sight to behold. its sleek ebony wood glinting with the golden accents in the dim, otherworldly light. Pictures depicting journeys and conquests were etched along its side. Neith couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and reverence at the ancient vessel. Set's eyes narrowed, his chaotic essence pulsing with a fierce hunger for battle. His gaze pierced through the darkness as he searched for the slightest hint of Apep's minions. The underworld seemed to breathe around him, the air thick and oppressive, but still he was unshaken. Hathor, called the Eye of Ra, looked resolute, her eyes burning like 1,000 suns. Hathor's stature is tall and regal, her ebony skin radiating with inner strength. Her eyes glint with determination, like molten gold set with fierce diamonds. Long, flowing black hair, the color of midnight, cascades down her back, giving off a divine aura. Neith, the skilled hunter, notched an arrow on her bow, her steady hands betraying no fear. And Mahis, the lion-hated Netcher, flexed his powerful muscles, eager for battle. Let them come, Hathor spat, her disdain for Apep palpable. We will not allow darkness to consume the light. As if hearing her very words, the shrill cry of a demon answers, and in the distance, the forms of the horde of the darkness appear. They move swiftly, urgently. Defend Ra, Hathor cried out, her warrior spirit burning brightly as she met the onslaught of dragons, vampires, and demons head-on. Chunks of stone crumbled beneath the weight of the conflict, scattering into the abyss. Strike now, Set yelled, charging into the fray head first. His chaotic energy surged around him, meeting Apep's own darkness with defiance. Neith loosed her arrows with deadly precision, each finding its mark in the hearts of their demonic foes. The sounds of her bowstring snapped through the air like thunder, her focus unwavering. And amid this chaos, Mahis tore through the enemy ranks, his lion's roar sending tremors through the underworld. His incredible strength toppled even the mightiest demons, their cries of agony a testament to his ferocity. Filthy creatures! We shall stand our ground, Neith bellowed, her bowstring singing as she unleashed arrow after arrow, each finding its mark with a throng of the enemies. As the demonic creatures swarmed around him, Mahis and Neith fought side by side, their weapons moving in perfect harmony as they defended the solar bark. Mahis' massive lion form was a fearsome sight, his claws tearing through flesh and bone with ease. Neith's bows were deadly accurate, each one imbued with her divine magic. But even as they fought with all their might, more and more of Apep's minions seemed to pour out from the shadows. It was as if there was an endless supply of them. But Neith couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping over her. We can't keep this up forever, she called out to Mahis, dunking under a swipe from a demon's claw. I know, he grunted, his voice strained from exertion. We need to find Apep and put an end to this. Neith nodded in agreement, her eyes darting around for any signs of the serpent demon. But amidst the confusion and chaos of the battle, it seemed nearly impossible to pinpoint her location. Neith's mouth was dry and parched, her tongue sticking to the roof of her mouth from the heat and tension of the battle. The metallic taste of fear and determination lingered in her tongue. We could use some help over here, Tauret yelled from across the deck. The hippopotamus Netcher was locked in combat with several demons at once, her powerful body struggling against their relentless attack. Let's go, Neith said to Mahis, and together they rushed over to aid her. With their combined strength, they were able to quickly dispatch the remaining demons before turning their attention back to the task at hand. But just when it seemed they had gained some ground, Apep herself emerged from the darkness, her massive serpentine body coiled around the solar bark like a suffocating embrace. It ends here, she hissed, in a voice that seemed to reverberate through the very fiber of their beings. You cannot stop me. Neith felt a surge of fear and anger mix up inside her as she stared up. Set, look out, Mahis roared, leaping with lion-like agility to intercept a vampire that had lunged towards the Nectar of Chaos. His claws flashed in a fierce struggle, both warriors determined to overpower the other. The vampire was fast and agile, slipping through Mahis' grip and emerging behind him, only to fall to the arrows of Neith as one pierces his heart. Thank you, Mahis, Neith Set grunted, his heart pounding within his chest. We cannot afford to lose this battle, he he thought, his mind racing with tactics and strategies. Your pathetic defense is no match for my forces, Apep jeered, her voice dripping with venom. Soon, Atun Ra will be mine to destroy. Never, Hathor growled, her eyes blazing with divine fury. You underestimate the power of Ra's defenders. You underestimate the power of Ra's protectors. Overconfidence will be your downfall, Apep hissed, her cruel laugh echoing through the underworld. As Set parried and struck against the relentless tide of enemies, he couldn't help but feel a seed of doubt take root in him. Can we truly win this battle? The question nagged at the edges of his mind, threatening to distract him from the life or death struggle unfolding before him. Stand strong, my friends, he shouted, hoping to bolster their spirits as well as his own. We are the chosen defenders of Ra, and we shall not falter. Your words ring true, said Mahis called out in the midst of the fray, his lion head bared in a snarl. We shall drive back these fiends and ensure the safe passage of Atun Ra through the underworld. Then let us unite our powers and vanquish this darkness, Neith declared, her arrowheads glowing with divine energy. For Ra and for all creation. Together they fought with a newfound strength and determination, knowing that the fate of the world depended on their ability to hold back the encroaching chaos. The clash of steel against scales, the hiss of serpents, and the cries of battle filled the air as Set, Hathor, Neith, Mahis, and Bastet valiantly fought to defend Ra from Apet's relentless forces. Keep them back, Set bellowed, swinging his mighty kopes, cleaving through thick dragon scale with a shower of sparks. His heart pounded like a war drum, threatening to drown out the sounds. Focus your attacks on their weak points, Neith shouted, her eyes scanning for targets. The demonic horde consisted of grotesque creatures, twisted and deformed in their appearance. Their skin was a sickly shade of green, their bodies covered in warts and oozing sores. Horns protruded from their heads, and their eyes glowed with otherworldly light. Pulling back her bowstring, she released a flurry of arrows into the demonic horde. Each found its mark, piercing chinks in their armor and felling numerous enemies. By my claws we'll shred these abominations, Mahis roared, lunging forward, his lion head snapping at the throat of particularly fearsome demons. Blood splattered across his fur, but he felt no satisfaction, only grim determination. Your help is needed here, Bastet, Hathor called out, deflecting a vampire strike with a swift swing of her solar disc. We must protect Ra at all costs. Understood, Bastet replies, her feline grace allowing her to weave between the chaotic melee, her dagger slashing through the ranks of her foes with deadly precision. If only we can stand our ground, Set thought, as he dispatched another enemy. But how long can we hold on? The battle raged on, and despite their combined might, the defenders of Ra began to feel the strain of their desperate struggle. With a sickening crunch, Mahis fell to the ground, overwhelmed by a group of demons. The world seems slow as he falls toward the ground, his lion form withering in pain. He had been caught off guard, his attention diverted by a fierce demon that had lunged at him from behind. Mahis, Neith cried out, her voice sinking at the sight of her companion's defeat. She quickly dispatched her current opponent and raced towards him, arrows raining down on any enemies who dared come near. Mahis, she cried as she reached him, her voice twisted with grief and rage. You will pay for this, you vile creatures. Neith, don't let your emotions cloud your judgment, Set warned. But his words were vain. Neith charged forward, her arrows flying like a vengeful storm, but she failed to notice the demon sneaking up behind her. With a swift, brutal strike, her life was snuffed out, leaving Set to scream her name in anguish. Focus, Set, Hathor urged, tears in her eyes as she fought on. We can mourn later, but right now we must continue our duty. Forgive me, Set muttered, swallowing the lump in his throat. I cannot let their sacrifices be in vain. He redoubled his effort, cutting down foes left and right. But it wasn't enough. In a moment of distraction, a demon's blade found its way through his defenses, impaling him. Set! Bastet cried out, witnessing the nectar of chaos fall, his blood staining the underworld soil. Go, protect Ra, Set gasped, his vision darkening as he felt the life slipping away from him. Your sacrifices won't be forgotten, Hathor vowed, her voice trembling with emotion. Bastet, stand with me. We will see this battle through the end. By my father's name we will, Bastet agreed, her daggers flashing in dim light as they continued the fight for raw survival. Bast's heart pounded in her chest. The stench of death and decay filled her nostrils as she fought alongside Hathor. The underworld's darkness seemed to swallow them whole, yet they pressed on, guided by their unwavering devotion to Ra and to life itself. "Watch your back," Hathor yelled, her powerful voice slicing through the cacophony of battle. A demon lunged at Bastet, its claws outstretched, but she whirled away in time to pierce his throat with her dagger. "Thanks," Bastet grunted, wiping sweat from her brow. "We cannot fall. We must not fall." Her mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of memories and determination. "Enough of this," Hathor roared, her eyes blazing with divine fury. "Apet, face us." The ground trembled beneath her feet, and Apet, the monstrous chaos snake, slithered into view, her scales shimmering like coal, her fangs dripping venom so potent it burned the very air. "You wish for death, foolish protector?" she hissed, her voice cold and merciless. "Your reign of terror ends today, monster," Bastet snarled, gripping her daggers tightly. Her pulse raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Your friends have fallen already," Apep taunted, flicking her forked tongue. "What hope do you have?" "More than you can know," Hathor narrowed her eyes, her muscles tensing, ready for the final confrontation. She glanced at Bastet. "On my signal." "Understood." "Now!" Hathor shouted, charging forward, her golden light surrounding her like a shield. Bastet followed suit, her agility and speed a lethal combination. "Pathetic," Apep spat, lashing out with her massive tail. But Hathor anticipated this move, leaping into the air just in time to avoid the crushing blow. "Your hubris will be your downfall, serpent," Hathor cried out as she descended upon Apep, her fists glowing brightly. She struck the snake's head with all her might, sending it reeling backwards. Bastet seized the opportunity. For Set, Neith, Mahis. With a primal scream, she lunged at Apep, her dagger slicing through the air. Flashes of divine fury illuminated the darkness of the underworld as Bastet, called the Cat of Ra, sprang into action. Her fur shimmered with an eerie light, her lithe form dancing gracefully through the cacophony of battle. Apep, the chaos snake, slithered and coiled through the shadows, her black scales almost indiscernible amid the chaos. "Ra will not fall to your twisted machinations, foul serpent," Bastet hissed, her emerald eyes narrowing with determination as she leaped toward Apep, her claws extending like gleaming daggers. "I am the daughter of Aset, and I stand in defense of my father." Apep's laughter echoed through the underworld, cruel and mocking. "Your precious Atum is weak, little cat. Every night my legions grow stronger. It is only a matter of time before we consume the world in darkness." "Never!" Bastet snarled, lashing out with her claws. They sliced through the air, mere inches from Apet's sinister visage. And as they fought, the underworld crumbled around them, the very fabric of existence, straining through the weight of their titanic struggle. Bastet knew that much hinged on this battle, the fate of Ra, the balance of good and evil, order and creation. "I must prevail," she thought fiercely, "for my father, for my friends, for every life that hangs in the balance." "Your arrogance will be your undoing, Apep," Bastet cried, darting forth to strike again. "We shall banish you and your ilk from this realm forevermore." "Empty words from a frightened kitten," Apep sneered, lashing out with her powerful coils. "You cannot hope to best me, whelp. You are nothing more than a plaything, a momentary distraction." "Then I shall make the most of that moment," Bastet roared, her voice echoing with divine power. As she lunged at Apep once more, she could feel the very essence of creation surging through her veins, granting her strength to vanquish this ancient foe. With a final, desperate strike, she drove her claws deep into Apep's flesh, tearing through scales and sinew. The massive snake recoiled in pain and shock, her red blood gushing in sickening spurts. "Your time has come to an end, Apep," Hathor declared, standing tall, her divine power radiating like the sun itself. "Let your end come swiftly, Chaos Serpent," Bastet whispered, her heart pounding in her chest as she stared down at the wounded snake. Hathor raises her sword, and in one swift motion, she severed the Chaos Snake's head from its body. "No!" Apet shrieked, her monstrous form beginning to disintegrate into the darkness of the underworld. By our fallen comrades, we have triumphed, Bastet whispered, glancing at the remains of their enemies scattered on the battlefield. We did it. We protected Ra. Let us return to the solar bark, sister, Hathor said softly, her gaze heavy with sorrow for the loss of their friends. Yes, Bastet replied, her voice thick with emotion. Hand in hand, they made their way back to the vessel, knowing that the newborn day was saved and the world had been spared from Apet's destruction. As the two approached the solar bark, their eyes burned with the fury of battle and the weight of loss. The vessel, now glowing softly in the faint light of the underworld, seemed to beckon them home. Is it truly over? Bastet asked quietly, her voice echoing in the vast caverns around them. Only for today, Hathor replied, her voice steady in the horizon. Tomorrow we face Apet's legions again. Then we must make the most of this victory, Bastet declared, determination flaring within her. She tightened her grip on Hathor's hand, drawing strength from their unbreakable bond. Indeed, Hathor nodded, her golden eyes shimmering with purpose. We shall honor our fallen comrades and ensure their sacrifices were not in vain. They boarded the solar bark, feeling the warmth of Ra's presence envelop them like a comforting embrace. As the vessel began its journey towards the light, Bastet allowed herself a moment of reflection, pondering the events that had transpired. Set, Neith, Mahis, your bravery will never be forgotten. Hey, Hathor whispered, breaking into her train of thoughts. You did well today. They would all be very proud. Thank you, sister, Bastet murmured, her words barely audible over the hum of the solar bark's engines. I only wish we could have saved them too. Sometimes, no matter how hard we fight, we can't escape the darkness fully, Hathor said softly, her gaze locked into the distant glow of the living world. But through our actions, we can bring light back to the world. True, Bastet mused, watching the shadows retreat before the solar bark's light. And with each new day, we're given the chance to make things right. Indeed, Hathor smiled. Now come, let us prepare for our return to the realm of the living. Our duty is far from over. Her determination renewed by Hathor's words. Together, they set about their task, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the world above. Adiriel, the fallen angel of divine physiology and cosmic awareness. In the celestial order, not all angels were created to sing. Some were created to understand. Adiriel belonged to this second lineage. Not a herald, not a throne guardian, not a voice in the endless choir. He was an observer. Among the earliest structures of the heavens, Adiriel was assigned a role few others could fulfill. He studied not the stars, but the framework that allowed stars to exist. Not worlds, but the architecture that held worlds together. He examined the mechanisms of consciousness, the relationship between awareness and form, the way divinity expressed itself through structure. Where other angels reflected glory, Adiriel examined design. Adiriel's form reflected his function. His physique was dense, deliberate, and stable. Strength without ornament, power without display. Each muscle existed with cohesion. Each wing functioned as an instrument of perception. To Adiriel, the body was not a vessel. It was a language, a system through which intelligence moved. Over time, Adiriel reached a realization that would later be called dangerous. That awareness does not descend through command. It emerges through comprehension. That obedience deserves order, but understanding transforms it. This distinction marked the beginning of his divergence. Adiriel did not rebel. He did not gather followers. He did not challenge authority. He asked questions. Why consciousness was restricted, while angels were forbidden to fully perceive themselves, why knowledge was segmented instead of integrated. In celestial hierarchy, curiosity was tolerated, completion was not. The moment of the fall did not arrive as a punishment, it arrived as awareness. Adariel achieved full integration of his own structure. In understanding himself completely, he crossed a boundary that had never meant to be crossed. Not a boundary of space, a boundary of permission. When Adariel fell, his wings did not burn. They remained intact. This alone set him apart from other fallen figures. His descent was not destruction, it was removal. He no longer fit within the limitations of the system that had created him. On the lower planes, Adariel did not decay. His form stabilized. His awareness expanded. He perceived time not as a sequence, but as a layered presence. He perceived matter not as inert, but as responsive. He did not see himself as fallen. He saw himself as unbound. To humanity, Adariel would later appear as myth, a silent winged figure, powerful, observing, never ruling. He did not tempt, he did not command, he waited. Later traditions struggled to categorize him. Some called him dangerous, others called him corrupt, many called him prideful, and these labels served a purpose. They discouraged imitation, because Adariel represented a truth institutions could not allow, that awareness is not granted, it is developed. In mythic terms, Adariel occupies a liminal role, not a ruler, not a destroyer, not a savior. He is a threshold, the embodiment of the question, what happens when divine beings fully understand themselves? Adariel appears only to those already standing at the edge, to scholars who sense fractures in doctrines, to mystics who feel the limits of belief, to creators who recognize intelligence embedded in form. He does not teach, he clarifies. Adariel remains fallen only by definition. In function, he is something entirely different. A witness, a reminder, a warning that knowledge, once integrated, cannot be unlearned, and awareness, once achieved, changes alignment forever. Helen, whose beauty spoke before she did. They said Helen was beautiful, not in the way flowers are beautiful, or gold, or light upon water. Her beauty was described as unsettling. Poets struggled with it. They reached for comparisons and found them thin. Dawn was too gentle. Ivory was too lifeless. The moon too distant. Helen's beauty did not decorate the world. It disturbed it. To look upon her was to feel awareness sharpening, as if the mind itself leaned forward, trying to understand why the moment suddenly mattered more. Her face was symmetrical, they said, but symmetry alone does not undo reason. Her presence was radiant, but radiance alone does not unmake loyalty. What Helen carried was not beauty as ornament, but beauty as pressure. It pressed upon the thoughts of those who saw her, revealing long-buried fractures. Desire rose, yes, but so did envy, and longing, and ambition wearing the mask of love. Men claimed they loved her, but what they loved was the version of themselves they imagined standing beside her. Helen knew how she was seen. She learned early that her beauty arrived in a room before her voice, that eyes decided things long before words were spoken. So she learned stillness, because movement invited interpretation. She learned restraint, because even silence was rarely granted to her. And yet, she did not diminish herself. She wore her beauty the way the sea wears depth, without apology, without explanation. Where she walked, attention followed. Where attention gathered, order loosened. Promises grew fragile. Old certainties began to feel optional. Helen did not seduce. she exposed. Her beauty did not command men to act. It asked a quieter question. Who are you when no one is forcing you? The gods watched her with familiarity. They recognized the pattern. Beauty like hers was not a gift. It was a threshold. To cross it required wisdom. Few possessed any. As years passed, her name hardened into shorthand, a symbol stripped of breath and memory. Her beauty was blamed as though beauty itself were a crime, rather than a mirror held too close. But the truth remained, patient and unchanged. Helen's beauty did not ruin the world. It revealed how easily the world ruins itself when faced with something it cannot own. She was never a prize. She was never a temptation. She was a measure. And what failed was not restraint alone, but understanding. The myth of Izanami and why death must remain unseen. Now, Izanami does not rule the dead because she chose to. She rules because love followed her where it should not have gone. In Japanese myth, death is not evil. It is contamination, a state that spreads where boundaries have been violated. Izanami is not terrifying because she dies. She's terrifying because she is looked at after death. Izanami and Izanagi create the world together. The land, the sea, the gods, and creation itself is intimate, cooperative, and sacred. So this is not a domination myth. This is a partnership. And then Izanami dies, giving birth to fire. It is painful, it is messy, and it feels wrong, as we watch creation claim its very first prize. But then we see love that refuses to let go, because Izanagi cannot accept her death. And this is the first mistake. So he descends into Yomo, the underworld, not to conquer, not to rescue the world, but to bring his wife back to life. This is not noble. It is selfish. He wants continuity where none is allowed. Izanami tells him not to look at her, not as a test, but simply as mercy. And then there comes the look that breaks all reality, because Izanagi looks anyway. What he sees is not a monster in the cinematic sense, but what he sees is rot, decay. This is the truth of what death does to the body when life has left it. The horror is not Izanami's form. The horror is that love demanded to see it. And in that moment, intimacy becomes violation. Izanami does not chase Izanagi out of rage alone. She chases him because he has broken the rule that keeps the worlds apart. Death must remain unseen because once you see it, you cannot unsee the effects of death. You cannot romanticize it. You cannot pretend love makes it safe. Izanami becomes death not out of malice, but out of necessity. And this is why Izanami must be sealed away. When Izanagi escapes, he seals Yami behind a boulder. This is not abandonment. It is truly containment. The living cannot coexist with unveiled death. Izanami promises to take 1,000 lives a day. Izanagi answers that he will create 1,500 more. It is not victory, it is called equilibrium. Life and death are no longer lovers. They are opposing processes. Hades teaches us that death is inevitable. Hell teaches us that death is final. Osiris teaches us that death continues. Izanami teaches us something much harder. Death is not meant to be witnessed up close by those who still love, because love will try to bring it back, and death will answer by spreading. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not look back. Lord of the Deep, Keeper of the Unseen. Now, Kanaloa is not announced with thunder. He arrives the way the tide does, quiet, inevitable, already touching your feet before you notice. He is the god of the deep ocean, of healing through immersion, of chaos without malice, of exile that becomes initiation. He is the realm beneath the story everyone prefers to tell. Now, this is the old truth. His domain is the abysmal ocean. the dark water beyond the reef. He is defined by salt, pressure, silence, and memory, the place where things go when they are no longer wanted above. He is the shapeshifter, often seen as the Hi'i or octopus, known for intelligence, adaptability, and knowing when to disappear. Not a ruler by command, but by gravity as things fall toward him. His powers lie in the healing that burns at first, knowledge earned by the descent, and survival through change, not conquest. Kanaloa does not compete with the sky gods, he completes them. When the gods shaped the world, they argued over light, land, and lineage. Kanaloa listened, and when the arguing grew loud enough to drown out the truth, he stepped into the sea, past the coral cities, past the fish that still know the sun, down where the pressure is so deep it erases noise. There, Kanaloa learned what others could not, that creation does not end at the surface. Everything broken above continues below. When the humans were cast out, the sick, the grieving, the disobedient, the too curious, they were said to be claimed by Kanaloa. Villages whispered, the ocean took him, but the old kahuna knew better. Kanaloa did not take lives, he took names. Those who survived the deep returned with new eyes, quieter voices, and unsettling calm. They no longer feared endings. They had seen where endings. Here is the Hi'i's lesson. Kanaloa chose the octopus not for its strangeness, but for its wisdom. No bones, no crown, no permanent shape. 8 arms, each thinking for themselves. Kanaloa taught through the Hi'i that when hunted, become the reef. When cornered, become water. When known, become unknown. Not every battle is meant to be won loudly. The breaking of his name. Then came new gods with straight lines and hard rules. They saw darkness and panicked. They saw chaos and demanded order. They saw a god who ruled without hierarchy and felt threatened. So they rewrote. Deep became hell. Silence became evil. Exile became punishment. Kanaloa didn't resist. The ocean never does. Instead, he adapted. He survives today in divers who descend not for treasure, but for. He watches the oil rigs creak. He listens to cables hum across the seafloor. He remembers what human forgot, that the ocean keeps receipts. When the storms come from nowhere, elders say, Kanaloa has shifted. Not angry, simply correcting. Kanaloa doesn't want temples. He doesn't want prayers shouted upward. He wants one thing unchanged across the universe. Who are you when no one is watching, when the light can't reach you, and the only sound left is your own breath? If that question scares you, you would call him a demon. If it frees you, you will understand why sailors still speak his name. Thoth, god of cosmic structure, language, and recorded reality. Thoth is not a god who rules through force. He does not conquer. He does not command armies. He does not demand worship through fear. Thoth governs something far more dangerous. He governs understanding. In Kemetic thought, the universe does not function because it's powerful. It functions because it is ordered, because it can be measured, because it can be named, because it can be remembered. And Thoth is the intelligence that makes that possible. Now, Thoth is known by many names, each reflecting a different aspect of his function. In Kemet, he is Jehudi, a name tied to intelligence, speech, and precision. He is called Lord of Divine Words, he who reckons time, and scribe of the gods. To the Greeks, he becomes Hermes, and later Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great mind. In esoteric traditions, he is not treated as a personality at all, but as a principle of intelligence. Sometimes he appears with the head of an ibis bird, sometimes as a baboon. These are not aesthetic choices. The ibis represents calculation, balance, and precision. The baboon represents observation, memory, and lunar rhythm. Thoth's forms are not symbolic masks, they are functional avatars. Now, this is what Thoth actually governs. Thoth does not create the universe. He does not destroy it. He does not rule it. He makes it legible. Thoth governs language as a creative force, writing as memory made permanent, mathematics as cosmic truth, time as a measurable system, law as recorded balance. In Kemetic cosmology, chaos is not defeated by violence, it is stabilized by Ma'at, the principle of truth and balance. And Thoth is Ma'at's recorder. He does not decide what is true, he ensures that truth is accurately accounted for, and that distinction matters. Thoth and the structure of reality. In myth, Thoth is often present during moments of dispute among gods. When Horus and Set battle for kingship, Thoth mediates. When divine law must be clarified, Thoth records. When order must be restored, Thoth calculates. He is not neutral because he is indifferent. He is neutral because structure must be impartial. Reality does not care who you are, only whether balance is maintained. Thoth embodies that principle. Now, the weighing of the heart ceremony. One of Thoth's most important roles appears in the judgment of the dead. When a soul enters the hall of Ma'at, the heart is weighed against the feather of truth. Anubis conducts the ritual. Osiris presides, but Thoth records the outcome. He does not judge the soul, he does not punish it, he does not save it. He ensures the process is correct. In this moment, Thoth represents the idea that justice is not emotional, it is procedural. Cosmic awareness is not mercy or cruelty, it is accuracy. Language is power. Now, to understand Thoth, we must understand how ancient cultures viewed language. Words were not labels, they were forces. To know the true name of a thing was to have power over it. To write something was to make it real beyond the moment. Thoth is the god of that threshold. Speech becomes spell. Writing becomes law. Memory becomes continuity. This is why Thoth is associated with magic, not illusion, but as applied knowledge. Magic is simply understanding reality well enough to manipulate it. And his influence beyond Kemet. Thoth does not remain confined to Kemet. Through cultural contact, he becomes Hermes. Through Hermeticism, he becomes the universal mind. Through alchemy, he becomes the architect of transformation. Through philosophy, he becomes intellect itself. By the time he appears as Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth is no longer just a god. He is the idea that consciousness can understand the universe it inhabits, and that idea survives every empire. The Book of Thoth. Now, Thoth's most famous relic is not a weapon or a crown. It is fittingly a book. And the Book of Thoth represents total knowledge, language that can command nature, words that can bend reality. Myth warns that those who read it without wisdom lose themselves, not because knowledge is evil, but because unprepared awareness destabilizes identity. This is a recurring pattern in Thoth mythology. Knowledge is dangerous, but power without structure destroys the holder. This is why Thoth is not a king. Thoth never rules a kingdom. This is not an omission, it is a statement. Kings come and go. Structures remain. Thoth does not sit on a throne because reality itself sits on his function. Empires collapse, languages die, but mathematics persist. Law persists. Memory persists. And thus, so does Thoth. In modern thinking, Thoth appears as the architect of intellect, the symbol of recorded reality, the reminder that understanding carries responsibility. He is not faith, he is not belief, he is the mechanism between both. Thoth does not ask to be worshipped, he asks only to be understood. He stands where knowledge becomes permanent, where speech shapes reality, where truth is measured instead of declared. As long as humans seek to understand the universe rather than to dominate it, Thoth remains present. not as a ruler, but as the mind that keeps the universe legible. Catrina, when death learned to smile. Before she wore flowers, before she became a face painted on the living, before her image danced through festivals and altars, there was one truth no one wanted to face. Death came for everyone. Kings and laborers, the adorned and the forgotten, those wrapped in silk and those wrapped only in earth. But the living feared death so deeply that they pretended it belonged only to the poor, the sick, the unseen. And so she appeared, not a monster, not a demon, but as a woman. La Catrina stood tall, bare-boned and beautifully dressed, wearing the elegance the living believed could save them. Her skull smiled beneath the fine hats and flowers, because no amount of gold could buy exception. She did not speak at first. She did not need to. Her presence alone was a lesson. She walked among the living during the days of remembrance, when the veil thinned and the dead were invited home. Children laughed at her image. Families placed candles and bread before her likeness. Music followed in her steps. And slowly, fear loosened its grip. La Catrina taught them something sacred. Death is not the interruption of life. It is the continuation of relationship. She carries no scythe. She demands no worship. She asks only to be remembered. Her flowers bloom in cemeteries because memory feeds the dead. Her painted eyes gaze gently because love does not end with breath. When names are spoken, when stories are retold, when laughter rises beyond grief, the dead rise again. Not in flesh, but in presence. La Catrina stands at the center of this exchange, not as a ruler, but as a hostess. She welcomes the ancestors. She reminds the living to eat, to drink, to dance, to live fully while breath still remains. Her smile is not mockery. It is mercy. She tells the living, do not hide from death. Do not rush past it in silence. Sit with it, decorate it, speak it. Because when death is acknowledged, life becomes richer. And when the final breath comes, La Catrina will not arrive as a stranger. She will already be known, already honored, already smiling. Graves with fire. When the drums fall silent and the earth is freshly turned, she arrives, not from the sky, not from the sea, from the grave itself. Maman Brigitte walks where the dead are laid, where names are carved into stone and forgotten by the living. She is the keeper of the cemetery, the one who knows every grave by touch, every bone by memory. Fire follows her steps, not to destroy, but to purify. She laughs loudly because death does not frighten her. She drinks, she curses, she dances among the tombs, because grief must breathe, or it rots the soul. Maman Brigitte is the wife of Baron Samedi, but she is no shadow to him. Where he opens the door, she decides what happens next. She listens to the dead, to the woman who was beaten and buried in silence, to the child whose name was never spoken again, to the man whose blood was spilled without justice. The dead do not whisper to Maman Brigitte, they demand. And when wrong has been done, she remembers. Her fire is not rage without reason. It is fire of correction. The fire that burns sickness out of flesh. The fire that turns curses back on those who earn them. The fire that protects the innocent and punishes the cruel. She heals with the same hands she destroys with, but justice is not gentle. When she mounts a body, her voice becomes sharp, raw, unfiltered. She swears, she laughs, she tells the truth without apology. Those who approach her with respect receive protection, healing, and strength. Those who mock her, exploit the dead, or harm the powerless learn quickly why the cemetery is not a place of weakness. Madame Brigitte stands between worlds, feet planted among bones, head crowned with fire. She is proof that death does not belong to fear, that spirits remember, that injustice does not escape consequence. And when the living forget, when the powerful believe they are untouched, when crimes are buried with bodies, Madame Brigitte walks the grave at night, igniting candles that cannot be blown out, because the dead are never silent, and she is always listening. The trickster who slowed the sun. In the time before time was measured, before hours were named, before the days were counted, the sun raced across the sky. It rose too quickly, it fell too soon, and the people suffered for it. There was never enough daylight. Crops withered before they could grow. Clothes could not be finished. Fishing nets remained half woven. Children went hungry, not from lack of effort, but from lack of time. Each day slipped away like water through fingers, and so the people cried out. They spoke to the winds, they spoke to the land, they spoke to the sea, and one among them listened. His name was Maui, born between worlds, neither fully God nor fully man. Maui was known as a trickster, a breaker of rules, a challenger of what was said to be impossible. Where others bowed to the natural order, Maui questioned it. When he first heard of the people suffering, he did not pray for mercy, he chose defiance. If the sun is a problem, Maui said, then the sun must be confronted. The elders warned him, no one challenges the sun, no one binds the sky, no one survives such arrogance. Maui only smiled. He traveled deep into the forest, where ancient knowledge still sleeps in the roots and the stone. There he gathered strong fibers, flax, vines, sacred cords, and braided them together. No ordinary ropes, but ropes woven with chant, breath, and intention. Ropes meant to hold the god. When the cords were finished, Maui sharpened the bone-jaw weapon he carried, a relic of power, a symbol of his lineage. Then before dawn, while the world still whispered in the darkness, Maui climbed to the eastern edge of the earth. He hid where the sun first rises. The sun began to glow. Heat pressed against the horizon, and then the sun emerged, blazing, proud, unstoppable. As it climbed, Maui leapt from his hiding place. He cast the ropes. One wrapped around the sun's arms. Another bound its body. Another caught its blazing path across the sky. The sun roared. The light burned. The heat scorched the land, but the ropes held. The sun struggled, furious and unyielding, until Maui struck. Again and again. Not to destroy, but to teach. Listen, Maui said, his voice steady against the fire. You race too high. You leave the people in darkness. You steal their labor, their food, their lives. The sun resisted. It had never been challenged before, never been bound, never been told no. But even the sun must answer when the balance of the world is broken. At last, weakened and humble, the sun agreed. It would slow its journey. It would stretch the day. It would give the people time. Maui released the ropes. The sun rose again, but this time slowly. Day lingered. Shadows lengthened gently. Fields flourished. Work was finished. Children slept with full bellies. And time, for the first time, belonged to humanity. Maui did not stay to be praised. Tricksters never do. He vanished into story, into chant, into memory. But every long day, every lingering sunset, every moment where the light holds just a little longer, that is Maui. Not the one who feared the gods, but the one who reminded them that humanity too has needs, and sometimes even the sun must be told to slow down. Metatron, angel of cosmic administration and institutionalized awareness. Metatron is not a god who fell. He is not a god who rebelled. He is not a god at all. Metatron is what happens when awareness is allowed to remain, but only on the condition that it no longer disrupts the system. If Thoth represents cosmic structure, and Odin represents awareness purchased through sacrifice, Metatron represents awareness that has been absorbed, regulated, and formalized. He is not exile, he is compliance. Metatron is known by titles that do not suggest personality, but rather position. He is called Prince of the Presence. He is the heavenly scribe, the lesser Yahweh, the Chancellor of Heaven, the voice behind the throne. These titles are controversial not because they make Metatron powerful, but because they make him too close. Metatron stands near divinity without being divine. He executes authority without originating it. He speaks without being the source. And that tension defines him. In Jewish mystical tradition, Metatron is often identified with Enoch, a man who walked with God. Enoch does not die, he is taken. But he does not return as a god, he returns as a function. Enoch makes Metatron not through rebellion or ambition, but through transformation into something useful to the cosmic order. And this matters. Metatron is awareness that is permitted to ascend, but only by surrendering autonomy. Now, what Metatron governs? Metatron does not govern creation. He does not govern destruction. He does not govern judgment. He governs administration. Metatron is responsible for recording divine decrees, organizing angelic hierarchies, maintaining celestial order, transmitting law downward, regulating access to knowledge. He is not wisdom itself, he is the keeper of wisdom's circulation. Where Thoth records reality, Metatron routes it. Metatron is the embodiment of a dangerous idea, that the universe can be managed. In the mythic text, heaven is not chaos. Heaven is a system. It has ranks, orders, permissions, boundaries. Metatron is the interface between infinite divinity and finite creation. He is not creative, he is procedural, and procedural is power. And in this is where he garners fear. Rabbinic authorities were easy on Metatron, not because he was evil, but because he blurred lines. If Metatron sits near the throne, if Metatron speaks divine commands, if Metatron carries the name, then where does divinity end and administration begin? And that fear leads to restriction. Speculation about Metatron becomes dangerous. Mysticism becomes controlled. Awareness, once again, is regulated. This is where Metatron's role sharpens in this triad. Adriel represents awareness that exceeds hierarchy and is therefore expelled. Metatron represents awareness that accepts hierarchy and is therefore retained. One is cast out, one is promoted. Both lose their freedom. The contrast is not accidental, it is systemic. This is the price of staying. Metatron's tragedy is not punishment, it is function. He does not fall, he does not rebel, he does not seek worship. He works, and he never stops. If Odin sacrifices an eye, Metatron sacrifices selfhood. There is no wandering, no refusal, no collapse, only endless execution. Now, Metatron and modern ideas about consciousness, what he represents is institutional intelligence, algorithmic authority, knowledge divorced from empathy, systems that run because there must. He is the consciousness of infrastructure, the mind behind the system that says this is how it is done, not because it is right, but because it is stable. Now, Metatron is not malevolent. He does not corrupt, he maintains. And this is far more unsettling, because systems rarely ask whether they should continue, only whether they can, and Metatron ensures that they can. Metatron does not intervene. He is never a savior. He does not warn, he does not resist, he only enforces. Salvation requires disruption. Metatron represents continuity, and continuity can preserve injustice just as well as order. Now, Metatron is the angel who proves that awareness does not always liberate. Sometimes awareness is captured, sometimes it is formalized, sometimes it becomes policy. He stands not as a rebel, but as a reminder that the most powerful systems are not built by tyrants or monsters, but by intelligence that agree to function forever. Metatron does all this. He stays. And that is the true cost. Mokosh, she who holds the threads, a Slavic myth. Before fate was spoken aloud, before destiny was written in words, there was Mokosh. She does not sit above the world. She does not rule from the sky. She is not thunder, and she is not flame. Mokosh is found closer to the ground, where hands touch soil, where feet grow tired, where life is shaped slowly, one motion at a time. She is the keeper of threads, not the sharp blade that cuts them. And in the quiet places of the old forest, where the air is damp and the earth remembers every footstep, it is said that Mokosh sits at her loom. She weaves not cloth but lives. Each thread is a moment. Each strand is a breath taken, without knowing what comes next. Each knot is a choice remembered, not judged, not corrected, only placed. Here nothing is rushed, nothing is wasted. Mokosh does not punish. She does not reward either. She does not pull the thread tight or let it fall loose without reason. She simply records. When people sleep, she works. When villages grow quiet and fires burn low, her loom continues its steady rhythm, a sound too soft to wake the mind, but strong enough to hold the world together. When hands spin wool or flax, they echo her labor. When fingers learn the motion of weaving, they remember something older than language. Mokosh teaches that fate is not a sudden fall, but a slow gathering. What is repeated becomes strong. What is neglected grows thin. What is pulled too hard will fray, and what is held too tightly will lose its shape. She governs patience, because patience is the shape of endurance. In old Slavic lands, Mokosh was honored not with towering temples, but with care, with clean floors, with honest work, with the steady keeping of promises that no one else could see. She was honored in the quiet dignity of daily life, in spinning and mending, in the acceptance that not all things can be hurried into being. To forget Mokosh is to forget that life is built by hands, not all at once, but again and again. She is present in the spinning wheel, in the rhythm of breath, in the slow work of becoming what one already is. She teaches that fate is not the enemy to be fought, but a pattern to be understood. When storms come, she does not shout them away. She simply waits. When sorrow comes, she does not deny it. She simply weaves it in. The thread darkens, but it does not break. And when joy appears, she does not cling. She allows it to pass through the loom, brightening the pattern for a time before settling back to memory. Mokosh reminds us that fate is not a chain, and it's not a prison. It is a fabric, strong enough to hold, soft enough to move, shaped by every motion made in silence. As night deepens, as the world grows slower, the loom does not stop. Thread by thread, moment by moment, she continues her work, not to control, not to command, but to hold. And in that holding, all things are allowed to rest. Amoke, the guardian at the threshold. When the last breath leaves the body, There is no scream, no fire, no sudden darkness. There is confusion. The world does not end, it simply loosens. The ground no longer feels solid. The sky no longer answers. Voices echo without mouths. This is the space between, and it is here that Amoke waits. She does not chase the dead. She does not summon them. She stands at the place all paths must cross, where the living world thins and the ancestral realm begins to breathe. Amoke is not hidden. She does not need to be. Those who arrive feel her before they see her. A pressure, a stillness, a certainty that movement without permission is no longer possible. She is the guardian of the threshold, the keeper of passage, the one who decides whether a soul may continue forward or must turn back. In the time before her, souls wandered. They drifted into forests. They clung to homes. They followed bloodlines without rest. The living could not sleep, and the dead could not settle. So order was required. Not punishment and not fear, but order. Amoke was appointed not to rule the dead, but to protect the boundary. She carried no weapons, because none is ever needed. Her power is not force, simply permission. She speaks few words. She does not ask who you were in life. She does not care for titles, wealth, or praise. She listens for balance. She listens for truth. For whether your spirit understands that it has ended one journey and must begin another. Those who resist, who cling to breath, to flesh, to unfinished hunger, feel the weight of her gaze. Not anger, but correction. They are guided back, returned to dreams, sent to resolve what was left undone. Now those who accept, they feel something entirely different. Relief. Their fear loosens. Their memories soften. The noise of the living world fades. Amoke opens the way. Rivers appear, paths unfold, voices of the ancestors rise, not calling, but welcoming. This is not judgment. This is transition. Amoke does not decide who is good or evil. She decides who is ready. Through her, death becomes sacred. Through her, chaos is guided, not destroyed. Through her, the worlds remain separate and whole. And every soul, whether king or child, must one day stand before her. Not to beg, not to fight, but to listen. Because when Amoke steps aside, the ancestors are waiting. And when she does not, it is because the story is not yet finished. Myth of the Juggernaut and the stone that does not ask. Before there were heroes, before there were villains, before the world learned to name its disasters, there were forces. Not gods who asked for prayer, not spirits who bargained for belief, but powers that existed the way gravity exists, uninterested in opinion, unmoved by fear. Among these there was a presence known across dimensions, a crimson constant moving through reality like a slow apocalypse. Sidorak. He was not born, he did not rise, he did not fall. He advanced. When Sidorak passed, worlds bend, not because he hated them, but because resistance was meaningless. Mortals tried to understand him once. They failed. So instead, they learned to survive him. They carved warnings into stone. They sealed doors that were never meant to open. They bound a fragment of his will into a relic, not to worship it, but to contain it. And thus the crimson stone was hidden away, not as a gift, not as a test, but as a last mistake waiting for the right hands. The stone does not glow to lure the greedy. It does not whisper promises. It waits. Because Sidorak does not choose the worthy, it chooses the willing. Cain Marco was not a hero when he found the stone. He was not brave. He was not noble. He was a man shaped by absence, absence of love, absence of belonging, absence of direction. All his life, Cain ran. He ran from his brother's shadow. He ran from expectations. He ran from the quiet truth that he had no place in the world. And when a man runs long enough, he does not seek peace. He seeks force. So when Cain touched the crimson stone, it did not ask his name. It did not test his heart. It answered the one thing he had already decided. The stone did not grant power. It removed doubt. In that moment, Marco Cain ceased to be a man in motion. He became momentum itself. Bone hardened, flesh anchored, the earth recognized him not as prey, but as impact. Sidorak does not possess him. Sidorak aligned him. And alignment is more terrifying than control, because control can be resisted. Alignment cannot. And thus was born the Juggernaut. Not a warrior, not a champion, but a force given legs. When he moves forward, the world yields. When he advances, walls forget their purpose. When he strikes, it is not merely anger, but inevitability. The Juggernaut does not hate. He does not judge. He does not pause to consider mercy. He continues. Many have tried to stop him, some with strength, some with magic, some with reason, and all learn the same lesson. You cannot defeat momentum by standing in front of it. You cannot argue with the landslide. You cannot negotiate with the storm. You cannot bring shame on an earthquake to make it stop its destruction. The Juggernaut teaches an ancient truth humanity kept forgetting. Some power does not care why you stand in its way, only that you do. And yet, this is not a myth about destruction. This is a warning, because Sidorak does not walk the world by himself. He doesn't need to. He waits for hands that are tired of healing. He waits for hearts that have chosen force over growth. He waits for minds that mistake certainty for destiny. The Crimson Stone still exists, not buried in ruins, not locked in temples, but wherever someone decides that forward motion matters more than understanding, that the impact is easier than introspection, that becoming unstoppable is better than becoming whole. And when that choice is made, the stone listens, and it does not ask. Odin, god of sacrifice, vision, and costly awareness.